What's good, y'all? It's your boy Sean P, the Blunt guy. Hey! And we got a special guest today. Y'all know who we got. We got ELiDZ in the building.
Back again.
Back again. Anyway, y'all, we're continuing this whole Understanding Haki revisited series that we've been kind of doing, me and ELiDZ specifically, this whole collaboration. And today we are going to be reacting to part three. It's part three, right? Just
Yep.
gotta make sure. Part three, part three. All right, but before we get into it, make sure y'all hit that like button. Also subscribe if you already aren't, and hit that bell for notifications. Also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you're looking for a One Piece community, we have the Discord and the Facebook group, as well as make sure y'all go subscribe to ELiDZ channel. His channel will be linked below in the description box, so y'all make sure y'all show him some love. But yeah, ELiDZ, hey, welcome to the channel again. So what are we going to talk about today? What are some topics?
So the last time we were actually reacting to the Understanding Hockey series was part two. And in that, I introduced the concept of chi vibrating, and depending on the speed at which it vibrates, aka the frequency of this energy, which is the basis of hockey. The word ki literally means chi, just chi is Chinese, and ki is the Japanese word for it, and you can find it in hockey. So at different frequencies, it produced different results. These results are what we know as the colors of Haki, which is armament, conquerors, and observation, which is only three. But I say that's just a basic understanding. If you go in
Mm-hmm.
depth, there might actually be seven different colors of Haki, just like the rainbow. And like chakras, which is the main basis of my understanding Haki. Another name for it I have is the chakra Haki theory, because each chakra represents or correlates with a hockey ability. And in part two, we went over the physical applications, which, if it's physical, you could guess that it has to do with armament hockey. So we went over three levels of armament, two of which we already know in the story, and three is really a speculation, but there's a ton of evidence to show that fire is a element of hockey, because there's countless fire techniques within One Piece that really aren't explainable.
Mm-hmm.
You look at fishmen and you could at least say, they're fish and it's attributed to them. But even that could be taught to humans, but that's another topic. But at least if you look at it, or the minks and their electro, you could at least say, oh, it's a species related thing. But there's a lot of characters that have these fire abilities, and it's not really explained.
Yeah.
Um, So that was the whole part two, was the physical and the armament application of hockey. And those are the first three chakras, root, sacral, and solar plexus. Now we're going into the higher chakras, starting with the heart chakra, the most balanced. So that's really a middle chakra.
Yeah.
But what we're going to see is, as the chakras rise, they get more spiritual.
Yes,
And
sir.
we already know the spiritual hockeys are observation and conquer. So you know what to expect going into this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me see what the chat's saying. My uncle with the thumbs up. Shout out to my uncle. He over in your state right now. uh, then we got Angel's Room in the building with the yo. Shout out Angel's Room. Welcome to the stream. And then we got Adam with the 100%. Shout out to Adam. Welcome to the stream. Hey, this is gonna be a good one, y'all. Y'all know what we talking about. We talking about hockey. We gonna get into it. Uh, so yeah, you already set the stage. Are we going to start from the 32 mark, or
No, that was me checking where we should stop. Um,
uh, ain't no rush? But I mean, I don't know if you had any more to talk about. What we're about to talk about, but because you already did, so well, I'm
yeah,
thinking. So yeah, you got any other plans for any content coming out?
yeah, I'm just hard at work on this understanding hockey finale,
Yeah.
so it's gonna take a while. I'll try to put out little videos here and there, but it's gonna be worth it once it's all produced.
When we get in the Red Sea continued. That's the series I've been kind of looking forward to, is the whole Red Sea. Yeah. Especially we about to get film Red in a little bit, couple months. I think it will go with
see if there's a connection in that.
I think it will go with
yeah, that'd be super
theme, cool. The red movie, film Red, another Red Sea theory. Come on, man, you can't beat that, man.
Yeah, that would be perfect timing. I'll try to get that ready for August. Yeah, I mean, I have the ideas of what I want for that, but I just really need to focus on Understanding Haki. It's years in the making.
Yeah. Well, let's get into this video. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into this video. It's gonna be we're probably for everybody in the chat, we might not watch this whole video, so we'll probably save it for the part 5 or no, hold on, we on part 5 right now. This is part 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. You in control.
All right then. Here we go. All right, let's quickly recap. In the first part, we discussed how Haki is also known as Supreme Chi, being the vibrating energy that is the basis of all existence. In the second part, we learned that Chi, also known as spirit or prana, will vibrate at a certain constant speed, which will then determine its frequency. That frequency within a being will then determine a chakra level they are resonating with. In One Piece's case, it will determine what kind of Haki is being used and at what level. You know what? Let's look back at a clip from part 2. Energy is everywhere, and in everything, there is energy. We have centers in our body that are conductors for this energy. These energy centers are called chakras. Through these chakras, we take in and send out energetic vibrations on many different levels, such as body, mind, heart, and soul. Each chakra has a different color associating with it, and each color has a different vibration. Now what we're going to do is figure out which type of Haki is associated with which frequency. We learned that Armament Haki is the first 3 chakras, so what could the next 4 be? That's what we're going to find out in this installment. Now remember, the chakra types for observation and conquerors may be at a higher level of frequency, but that doesn't make them superior to armament. Oh, and another interesting thing that I can't believe I forgot to mention in the last video, but it's so important. The true names of each Haki is Bosu Shoku, Kenbu Shoku, and Hao Shoku no Haki. Enjoy this lesson on Japanese etymology presented by an underqualified weeb. Okay, so Bosu is armament, Kenbun is observation, and Hao is conquerors. Translations may vary, but you get the gist. Why I brought this to your attention is the word Shoku. In this context, Shoku means color. In fact, the Viz translation uses the word color officially. This greatly supports my theory. If Haki can be related to chakra, then the different Haki types certainly would have specific colors attributed to them. Now's a great time to go over what is the spirit of a person in the context of Chi and chakra. We know spirits and souls exist in the world of One Piece because we've seen that from the perspective of people using observation. Also, Brook was a literal soul without a body at one point. I don't want to get too deep into the concept of spiritual bodies, because it can be very complicated, and we are already dealing with a lot going over the chakras.
Hold on,
there are different types of spiritual...
I kind of wanted to point out, like, something I just realized before that I've never realized, is when you see Brook's spirit, right? Like, not his, like, actual projection that he does, but, like, when he was looking for his body, I noticed that it looked like a little cloud with, like, the swirls, you know?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Kind of like one of the Akatsuki clouds almost. But yeah,
that will be relevant.
Yeah, I just had to point that out.
Yeah, it's a very great observation.
But it's wild how like the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
you know, gets that swirl just as well. You know how Oda kind of portrayed a spirit as like a little spirally cloud. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like a devil fruit to a degree. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
the soul kind of looked like a devil fruit if you think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that kind of make me think, you know, maybe devil fruits are, you know, souls. You know,
Mm-hmm.
especially how we
Yeah.
see Brooks soul.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I don't even necessarily address that in this video, which
Yeah.
is a big reason why I want to just recreate Understanding Hockey, because there's so many more things that I've learned and noticed that I could apply. So I just figured, you know what, from the ground up, I'm going to remake it. But yeah, that's a great point, and I'll explain why when we get to the throat chakra.
Yeah, yeah.
So right now, what I'm explaining is that, oh, there's so many different bodies, and it's such a complicated concept. I'm not going to go into it just for a One Piece theory.
Yeah.
It could be relevant. I could go, but it's just there's just no point when I can get the gist of it. So in this video, I kind of just split it up into physical and spiritual body. Just go over really two bodies. As I'm recreating it now, because I feel like I have much more room to work with, and because maybe some people will have already seen these videos by the time they see my remake, they'll have a better understanding, so they're easy to consume this. I'm gonna make it into 3 different bodies, so I can expand it, and with expanding, I can explain more. But in this video, you don't have to think about all 7 layers of the spiritual body. It's just way too complicated.
Okay. Yeah, because I was kind of about to ask about that.
Yeah, it's
Adam says, I have started interpreting the swirl as God's finger dipping into milk in relations to God creation. Wow, etc. I love how he used, because that's not the first time he used that analogy. I think I heard him use it. That analogy just makes me laugh, of God's dipping his finger.
Yeah, maybe that's God's fingerprint.
2 bodies, where's the subconscious? Oh wait, I just heard you say 3.
Yeah, I like the 3 works really good, because it's like 3 is such a great number to represent a whole system. If you just do 2, it's like 2 sides of a coin. But if you do 3, it's sort of like mind, body, and soul. Or you look at armors, conqueror, and observation. 3 is just such a great number to work with.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready.
All right.
Bodies that correspond with the 7 chakras. For now, I'll summarize and treat them like they are one spiritual body. And you know what? They really are one. It's almost like they're different interpretations of the same thing. All different planes of existence that a being can exist on simultaneously. For now, we'll treat the body like it can be split into just 2, physical and spiritual. That's all I have for this intro.
Everything in the universe is energy. Your body's energy. The room you're living in is energy. Everything you want is energy.
Everything is energy. And let me help you understand that just a little bit. There's the universe, of course, and our galaxy, and our planet, and then individuals, and then inside of this body are organ systems, and then there's cells, and then there's molecules, and then there's atoms, and then there is energy. So there are a lot of levels to talk about something on. But when you get down to it, everything is energy.
Facts.
So the reason I wanted to present that in this, put this in the video, I didn't mention anything about that. That's just an intermission. I'm just trying to present to people, like, here's something that has nothing to do with One Piece, but could still have relevance. You could still understand where I'm going with why I'm even including that. And I had that little note at the side about Vegapunk, which I'm going to mention a whole lot in Understanding Haki Part 4. But yeah, if Haki is energy, right? That's what we think of, especially DBZ is like the godfather of shonen anime.
Yep.
And
Yep.
in that, they don't really get as complex as something like Naruto or Hunter x Hunter. They just go, my energy is rising. I'm powering up. They just say it's
Mm-hmm.
energy. It's also called keys, an energy blast, a key blast, whatever. So that's sort of just like the basic understanding of these supernatural things, and it applies to hockey, even though it's more complex than DBZ. So
Yeah.
if hockey is energy, sure, it's an energy with extra properties. That's what makes it supernatural. But if it is energy, you could understand why someone like Vegapunk could come to understand hockey from a scientific perspective, because energy plays a huge role in science, in
That's true.
physics,
Yeah.
chemistry, electromagnetism. You know, one of the most famous equations in the world is E equals mc squared.
Yep.
E stands for energy.
Mass and what is it? Motion. C squared
Speed
is
of
motion.
light.
Speed. Oh yeah, speed of light.
Light
Yeah.
plays a big role. You know, shout out to Best Gen. You know, he came to such a great conclusion
Yeah.
when he
Yeah.
was talking about trying to understand the secrets of devil fruits, and he mentioned
He.
electromagnetism and light.
So I feel like Kizaru, he, like he could have like I don't know. I'm just stretching with the whole E
No,
equals MC squared. You know,
mm-hmm,
like like light being a part of energy and energy being of everything. I don't know. You
mm-hmm.
know, maybe Kizaru could tamper with things, but I think Logias are kind of limited to what they can do. I think they just become their element. I don't really know if they can actually. I mean, fire. I guess like fire, like
Mm-hmm.
Akainu and Ace. You know, they're like I could see them creating external energy. How fire works, because fire kind of spread.
Mm-hmm.
But like, does Crocodile create more sand, or is he limited to like turning, like can he only turn into the same amount of sand? I don't know. I'm kind of going on a tangent.
That's a good question. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Does he create more sand? We know he can turn things into sand, which
Yeah.
seems like awakening, but it's never been confirmed. Um, but what you're saying is a great point about Kizaru and how relevant it could be to this understanding of the role hockey and
Mm-hmm.
science can play in devil fruits. And one thing I noticed as I was coming up with this theory is that how the more important a character is, the more relevance their devil fruit has to understanding hockey and the role it plays
Yeah.
in creating devil fruits in science. You know, you look at Luffy, he's rubber, but one of the greatest property of rubber is the fact that it could be filled with air.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the greatest things to humanity. How will we get around? Like everybody, I mean, most people have cars. It's such, you know, we need that. We need, even if you don't drive a car, you need the trucks that drive us to the groceries. Like that matters so much. And air going in rubber is relevant because air is literally like the definition of chi.
Yeah.
So you look at Luffy, Brook. I mean, it goes without saying, he literally has the soul of a fruit. Chopper, he's the human, and being a human and the journey of enlightenment and becoming a whole person, that's going to play such a huge role.
Yeah.
um Even Robin to an extent, like her power is about blossoming and flowers, and vegetation and plants in general is going to definitely play a big role as we go, especially since they're literally called devil fruits. Let's look at Yonko. Ben, Big Mom is the soul. That goes without saying. Kaido, because he's a dragon, in a lot of mythology, there's a connection between chi and dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Some say the learning of chi and all the spiritual things come from dragons. Like dragons taught humans, and
Yeah.
that's going to play a role in my Red Sea theory. You look at Whitebeard, his Quake devil fruit. His devil fruit is literally like vibration at the maximum. If you
Yeah.
notice, like, haven't you ever noticed that the way advanced arm and hockey really is very similar to
The Quake.
Whitebeard's devil fruit? It's just about sending a shockwave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in fact, that's how the admirals stopped Whitebeard's attack. And when you think about it, it doesn't really make sense that all they have to do is just put their hands up and like create a wall, and it helps protect the entire building.
Maybe they're
But
creating a what's a polarity with their frequency.
Mhm.
So you create a polarity frequency, like a opposite frequency. It cancels out. You know, like I learned.
Yeah.
Like in music, if you got two of the same signals, right? But they're on different phases. Like they're on the opposite phase. When they come together, you can't hear it, or or some of the definition goes away.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to come to you to learn a thing or two. Doing my research on this. But the reference I was gonna use, I love when I could use anime references in my theories, because they tend to be funner than using scientific articles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in JoJo, they have this ability called Ripple. It's from the very first season with Jonathan Joestar. And this guy named Zeppeli teaches JoJo that there's this mask that can turn people into vampires. And the reason that they can even turn into vampires is because it activates something in their body that creates what is known as a ripple, also known as hormone. It's like a vibrational effect on their body. So he said, in order to fight these vampires that were created by this vibrational power, you need your own vibration to defeat a vibration.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like what I think is why Haki can stop an earthquake coming towards you by another individual.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just...
Yeah, I mean, if you understand how frequency, like, because you understand, you understand, like, you got, like, an understanding of it, right? But if you understand how, like, how two signals, like, work with each other, and because I think you got, like, a 90-degree phase and then a 180-degree, like, I think 180 is just the opposite of 90, pretty much. So if 90 is when it's at its peak, like the signal is at its peak, then 180 would be like if you just flip it, right? So if you pretty much have a signal that's kind of going at the same time, like time wise, but it's on the exact phase of it, it kind of cancels out. And another thing I also wanted to say, right? We was talking about relevant devil fruit users.
Yeah.
Blackbeard, right? Because we was talking about
Definitely.
like science, right?
Huge relevance.
We talked about science, and you was just talking about Kizaru. You know how we talked about E equals MC squared. The dark fruit kind of is like the antagonist of that that equation almost. You know?
Yes.
Because it's like
so many angles.
He can nullify energy.
There's so many angles you can look at the dark fruit as to why it cancels out double fruits.
Yeah.
From so many different angles, it would make sense. You look at vibration, you look at light, you look at sound, and they all work. Obviously, darkness is the opposite of light. But also, when you get real deep into it, it's like it's getting rid of color, and that even applies to Haki. You look at sound. He creates a void, and without a void, you can't have sound traveling. In fact, sound is based off vibration. So if he's canceling out there's so many different angles, and it's going to be a huge thing in my understanding Haki Part 4, that it makes sense why his devil fruit works the way that it does.
Hey, Blackbeard knew what he was doing when he chose that devil fruit. So,
Yes.
maybe he probably really knew the capabilities of that devil fruit and how it could help him come along. Angel's Room said, I feel the power. Adam says, I agree. I just think it might be 3 groups of 3 aspects making 9 levels. Haki, devil fruit, astral. But even that, I think it's not all of it. I really like the energy dimension stuff. I think the energy molecules is going to be huge soon with powers, specifically carbon-based ions. And then Angel's Room said, is Kizaru weightless? I mean, he is light. So, I mean, I think he could make himself weightless. But, like maybe he could control his mass to a degree, right? Like I would think, because when he is in his light form, he would probably be weightless. But when he's in his normal, which I don't know when he's not or when he is, or if he's always in his light form. Like that's like one of them mysteries of One Piece. And Adam says fire is also an element that can be made millions of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rage said Chopper shows how human can do so much. And Angel said go drink water. Got my water right here. Adam says I think they did, but with Haki, I think the Haki is the magnetics mixed with 3 chakra aspects. And then Rage says Caesar may be immune then because vibration cannot travel through vacuums. I mean, he was able to make a vacuum of air, but I don't think that's. I mean, I guess it is a vacuum.
So that's a very interesting concept. Not allowing sound or anything to travel. Caesar, because he's probably so science based, he probably doesn't get the full potential out of his devil fruit. He probably sees things from such a analytical and logical level.
Yeah.
And that's probably what makes the difference between him and Vegapunk. Vegapunk probably does all that, but also tries to see the spiritual component of these things.
Yeah.
Because Caesar, he just looks at his ability as just chemicals and gas, but it's like he also has domain over air. And like I said, chi and air, the chi is air. So imagine if he actually could use the breath of all things to his advantage from a spiritual perspective. He'd probably be super OP. He probably is one of the strongest devil fruits, but he's not utilizing it the way he could be. He's utilizing it in a good way because he's a scientist, but he could probably go above and beyond.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. Like, I could see Vegapunk. Maybe he wasn't always like a spiritual person, but maybe it was like he could have discovered the intersection of where science and spirituality meets, though. Like maybe he came across it and then he learned how important it was. Adam says exactly at Rage. That's why I don't think Haki can be all vibrational. The only thing that exists in every phase of existence is magnetic pull or pull. Pull. Rage says Caesar may be immune to Haki and devil fruits too. I mean, that's something we have to see. Adam says Haki definitely hurt Caesar. Rage says, are you serious? Maybe know most of his devil fruits, or maybe now most of his devil fruits. How he removes oxygen and gas. He know far more than anyone about gas. And then Adam says he was not. It took 2 Luffy. It took 2 Luffy hits of Haki to put him down. Haki was the only way Luffy could touch him. But all right, whenever if you're ready to get back to the video, unless you got something else to add to anything that they said in the chat.
Let's see. I think the thing with Caesar is, if he were to use the full potential of his devil fruit, maybe he could find a ways to become immune to, or maybe not necessarily immune, but just unaffected. Because immune just implies that he's inherently nothing can happen to him, but he's just so knowledgeable and powerful that he becomes unaffected by a lot of devil fruit and Haki abilities. I think this is something that's kind of hinted at a little bit in Doflamingo versus Luffy. When Luffy goes Gear 5th, Doflamingo attacks Luffy with an armament attack. And not only does Luffy defend himself against an armament attack, but he also maintains his rubber and elasticity.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, Doflamingo says it's because he mixed both his devil fruit and his haki together, which was like the big theme of last week's stream, which is that I think if you can find a way to master haki and you have a devil fruit, you can attain a level of being able to really overpower other people with haki,
Yeah.
or like ignore other people's haki abilities to bypass your devil fruit. That's probably why Kaido said haki transcends all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that's it. Heart Chakra. It's pretty obvious where in the body this will be located. It's associated with the element of air and is large part about love and emotion. Makes sense why someone like Sanji would be so good at this type of haki. Heart Chakra is one that I could see actually being attributed to all three types of haki. In fact, Heart Chakra can actually be split up into three. However, for the sake of not overloading this already jam-packed theory/analysis with more info, I will spare the possible confusion and focus on the main Heart Chakra. Okay, let's start this chapter over from the top. So, that first part of this Heart Chakra chapter wasn't the legit start. That's why I wasn't really going in depth. Or if you remember the last Understanding Haki, each chapter starts with me showing a character and the chakra that's correlated. So what I wanted to explain to this, and I will expand upon more in Understanding Haki Part 4 because I've learned so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I said I could attribute the Heart Chakra to all three of the Haki abilities. And this was the beginning to me coming to the conclusion that I have now, that so there's the Heart Chakra and then there's the heart. See, the Heart Chakra is not the heart. The Heart Chakra is just, each chakra is like associated with the part of your body, whether it's physical and the soul.
Yeah.
So Heart Chakra is a chakra, but then there's the heart. And I think the role that the heart plays is the fact that there's the colors of haki, and then there could even be the color of your heart. And what the color of your heart means to me is that it'll determine what kind of haki you're best at, what kind of person you are,
Mm-hmm.
what's your affinity. I think there's a correlation between personality and the type of haki someone uses. So you look at Sanji, right? He can kick, right? His focus is physical attacks. It is martial arts. He's kicking people. That's how he beats them.
Yeah.
Now, if on paper you would think that his best bet is to use arm hardening, right?
Yeah.
Just harden your feet, and that's what you should do to become stronger. But my theory is that it's not about what you think should be best for your circumstances, but really what's best for you as a person.
Yeah.
So Sanji is much more than a fighter, right? His
kind of
dream
like
isn't
he's
even
kind of
about
like the
fighting.
brains. He's kind of like the brains behind the Straw Hats, honestly.
Mm-hmm. His dream isn't even about fighting. It's about cooking. I feel like even before a fighter, he's a cook. He's someone who's passionate about the ladies.
Mm-hmm.
He's a kind-hearted, caring, generous person. These are things I feel for Sanji come before even being a fighter.
He also
So when you
cares
take
about the
those
crew.
things in consideration, yeah,
He also kind of looks after the crew, like especially the weakling trio. For the most part, you know, like he protects Nami if Nami's ever in trouble. Robin, you know, mostly the women, but still.
but these are the things I think about, which represent why the heart really determines what kind of hockey a person's best at. And I think we're going to start learning more and more the relevance of the heart.
Yeah.
Especially with Gear 5th. Now, Luffy's like, come on, heart. And the heart has a rhythm, which is a frequency, and, you know, all of that stuff.
I think the best Straw Hat that kind of as an example for your point is Usopp, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a sniper, you know, and we see he developed like observation haki. And not only did he develop observation haki, his is not like the normal haki we seen. At least his base haki, or at least the haki we seen from Usopp specifically. It's not so much where we see Luffy when he learned observation haki. It's more meant for like that hand-to-hand combat, where it's kind of like spider senses to a degree, like Spider-Man, where you get like that, oh, danger's coming, do something, move. You know what I mean? Like that few second precognition, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Usopp's was more like, I can see physical presences, like a presence from a distance away. And we know that Usopp is a sniper. So that works. That type of haki works well for Usopp. You know?
100%. And he's a very of the mind, which I think there's the body, mind, and spirit. And the mind is something that is definitely heavily, I think, a part of the observation and the third eye chakra. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But when I look at armament, observation, and conquerors, I think of armament as the body, observation more associated with the mind, and conquerors more associated with the soul.
Let me see what they saying in the chat. Rage said vibration concept will be contradicted in case of Caesar. Adam says same with Nami's power of love. I think he deleted some. But but I definitely agree. I think a person's haki like more so blooms in the type of person they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Luffy is Luffy's good in all the hakis, but still, I guess when we always relate each monster trio member, he gets Conqueror's haki. You know what I'm saying? But we also see how he gets people to follow him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is more he lead by example. You know, like he leads from the front. You know.
Mm-hmm. So something I want to address with Rage's comment is like, if Haki's vibrational, then Caesar can just counter it. Well, the thing is, it's not specifically just the atoms vibrating. Because if you think of it from that concept, you're really just thinking of it from a physical concept. But we're not just talking about the physical concept. So in Chi, there's a spectrum. It's earthly to heavenly. If you stick strictly to just earthly, then you'll only think of it in terms of really just the physical realm, the physical body. This is something I was talking about earlier in the video, where it's like there's different bodies, there's almost like different realms of existence. But then there's the physical and the spiritual and everything in between, because it's a spectrum. That's what makes it really complicated. It'd be so much easier if it was just physical and spiritual, but there's levels to it. It's literally just the spectrum. It's like how there's red, but then there's also blue, but then you can mix them together and get purple. Each different color has a different property. It's like different, because they're different realms of existence, you can't just think of it from one perspective, which is you can't just think of it from physical. This means that if something's happening vibrational, but it's not on the physical realm, whatever Caesar's doing in the air that is stopping a physical vibration, it doesn't matter if it's spiritual. Yeah. You know, it's like if Caesar tried to make Brook in his ghost form not breathe. Like, there's nothing Caesar could do to Brook in his ghost form by affecting the actual air. Now, if he could do something that was spiritual, then maybe he could affect Brook. But that's the whole point. It's like it's
kind of like
these things can't interact with each other.
Kind of like Perona, right? Like you take Perona's her little ghosts. Like I don't think Caesar could do anything to her ghosts, you know, because they're not really physical beings. They're like spiritual beings. You know what I'm saying? But you take like maybe Big Mom's homies, right? Which they're kind of spiritual in physical form, so you can probably hurt their physical form with by like taking the air out of the air. You know, like Zeus, for example. Like you take the air from Zeus, then he can't be fire because fire needs air to sustain, right? But
Yeah.
as a homie, his essence probably wouldn't go away. I don't know. Unless his essence need a body to stay with, then yes, sure, it might. You could defeat Zeus in that way, but you know, but like you might not be able to beat Perona's ghosts because they don't, you know, they're just little ghosts that can't really do much with, unless you could hurt them with Haki, but we don't know how that affects them yet, you know.
Yeah.
Adam,
also, it's. I'm sorry.
Nah, go ahead.
I would say this concept of like canceling out vibrations, it affecting like the spiritual and things of that nature, I think does have a relevance in One Piece because if you remember, Law replicated Corazon's ability to mute, and he used it against Big Mom of all people. And you gotta wonder like what was the big relevance of him doing that?
Yeah.
Sure, you could argue so the homies can't hear her, but like even if the homies can't hear her, they're still gonna want to come to her aid and stuff like that. I think it's more than just literally her not being able to talk. I think it literally was something that was actually able to cancel out her spiritual and hockey abilities.
Adam says, except for Brook, all you have to do is put him in water and he is out. I kind of lost where that comment is directed to, but my bad, Adam. Just not sure where that comment is directed. But all right, I'm ready whenever you ready to continue with the video, dog.
Gotcha. With that out of the way, the Heart Chakra is attributed to observation haki. It's a common trope when danger is afoot, someone can feel it in the air. Air is all around us. Spirit energy is all around us. Observation haki is about becoming one with air, aka spirit, in order to see it for what it truly is. With basic observation haki, you can see the haki, or should I say hear the voice of another living being.
Hey, pause.
Yep, gotcha.
I was gonna say because that I don't know. You just kind of put a lot of things in perspective for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you said hockey is pretty much like, I mean, I know we kind of talked about air and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you snacking on, man? Other there. So, yeah, it made me think, right? We see Luffy, Sun God, right? And
yep,
we know that all of Luffy's gears usually use air in some type of way. You know, we got gear 2, which is he expands his arteries, allowing air to be pushed through, allowing him to move a lot faster, right? Which is dope. Like if humans could like expand our arteries and have our hearts be pumping at a high level, but still, you know, it'd be ridiculous. But and then one he blows into bone, putting air in the bone. One he's putting air. It's almost like he's putting energy or chi into. He's putting chi into his bone or his muscle or his arteries. And then come to find out, you know, we learned that Nika, you know, he had this rubber ability where he's, you know, he could probably expand himself with air as well. And he's also a god. So you kind of look at Luffy is pretty much like the god of air almost. I feel like you can almost call him the god of air almost. Like, you know, it's weird. Or like Nika. Maybe Nika should have been called the air god or something. Since he needs air, you know. Chi. One Life Man say, yo, everyone, shout out to One Life Man. Welcome to the stream. He said, is garp haki stronger than Shanks? I don't know.
Yeah, we do not know.
I don't know.
Maybe in his prime, but we have yet
Yeah,
to see that.
I'm pretty sure in his prime, Garp was probably one of
One
the
Punch
best.
Man.
One of the I definitely want to see Garp in his prime, man. But again, I don't even know. I don't even know how strong Shanks is hockey wise. You know, I know he gets a lot of hype hockey, and we seen what he did to Whitebeard ship, so we know he ain't no scrub. But you know, is he like the greatest hockey user ever in the story? I don't know. You know, because if Roger didn't have a devil fruit, I would think he would probably be one of the best hockey users. You know. But then but then when you look at it, Garp and Roger were like rivals. So that I would think since Garp don't have a devil fruit either, maybe his hockey rivaled Rogers as well. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do you believe Garp surpassed, or do you believe that Shanks surpassed Roger in hockey? I mean, that might not be a fair question because we don't know if Roger and Garp is exactly equal, but I think they're in the same realm, you know?
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, I got something real interesting to say when we get to the throat chakra about Shanks and why him losing his arm may not be that big of a deal.
Yeah. One life man said, "Who is the first hockey user?" I don't know. I don't think we can even answer that. That's something you have to ask Oda right there. But I would think maybe Nika or somebody during Nika's time. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. But yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, it was Korea.
Korea.
All right. So this is the first chakra where things become a little bit less simple. Like it's easy to grasp why armament Haki on the first level is Earth because they make their body tougher. It's like, yeah, of course your body getting tougher. That's Earth. It's like they're surrounding themselves in Earth or iron. Then you look at the fluid aura and how that can correlate with water. You know, it's like this aura is almost liquid-like at times. You could then understand that. And then you look at, I said, the solar plexus that can help you to produce fire, and as a fire element, those are easier to understand. That's just how it works. The more physical it is easy to understand. Why? Because we literally live on the physical realm of existence. That's how it operates in spiritual philosophy. So now we get to air, right? So what is air? Is it like airbending from Avatar? You know, is it like wind style? No, because now we've just entered the realm of spiritual, this is like the entry to spiritual. So we're dealing with air, and air as we know it is just something that's all around us. We breathe it. It's like a life force. So when you take that into consideration, it'll help you to understand why air would be relevant to observation. You can feel it in the air, and then I played that Phil Collins thing. But then you also have to understand chi literally means air. So in observation is about being able to sense chi, and in a sense become one with chi.
I got a question for you. So
yeah,
because you know we don't have like a lung chakra, right? Like we don't have a lung chakra.
Heart chakra is another name for heart chakra is lung chakra.
You said there is a lung chakra?
Yeah, another name for. I make a mistake in this video where I even say like, oh, it's not called lung chakra. That was actually wrong. So the heart chakra is not what it's actually really called because it's in Hindu. It's in a different language. Heart chakra
that's
is
what
just
I was
what
going to
translate it in English, but that's not even a direct translation.
Because I was going to ask, since the lungs are kind of in the same area as a heart, wouldn't they be associated? You know, kind of fall under the same umbrella. You know, and it would also make sense to me because if like let's say the lung chakra is associated with the heart chakra, right? Or it's part of the heart chakra, for example. And one thing you said was the heart chakra is kind of drives the other all the Haki, right? The three different Haki, you know. But when you look at when you look at chakra in general or chi, or you know, what I mean, it all you need air, right? Like ultimately,
Yeah.
you need air. You need air. So I would think, you know, the heart chakra will probably be one of the most important chakra. And I think you said that, like the heart chakra being one of the, like the heart and the crown chakra, I guess. Or maybe you didn't say that. I don't remember. Maybe you said the heart is more important than the brain or something. Or maybe I'm thinking of something different I watched. I don't remember.
It's funny. You could argue that every chakra is the most important chakra because they all have such an important function. It's like if you look at solar plexus, that one focuses on energy. I didn't really get into that in Understanding Haki Part 2 because I didn't know that back then. Again, why I'm remaking it. But it's about the energy. Like, what can you do without raw energy? You can't really do much. But then you look at root chakra, it's about the body. I was like, what can you do without your body? Like, that's our existence. You know, the heart, what can you do with it? They're all essential. That's literally the whole point. It's a system, and each one of them is important. Now, as for the whole concept of breath and how relevant it is to all haki, well, it's called haki, whether it's observation haki, conquerors, they all have haki in its name, and ki means breath. So you can understand if it's breath and heart chakra's element is air, you can understand why the relevance is in every single one.
Yes, sir.
All right. Then I'll go. However, on one occasion, we were able to witness Zoro detect the breath, aka chi, of everything around him, living or not. Sorry to pause once again. I just really want to point this out since it's really relevant to the most recent chapters. But I think I said it last week, but if you look at the picture, it says the trees with heartbeats of their own, and even the breathing says bump, 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 bump. So keep that in mind when we're learning more about Gear 5th and its relevance of Luffy's heart.
Boom, boom.
And think back to Breath
When
of
he
All
died.
Things, which was all the way back in Alabasta, which shows that Oda's been thinking about this stuff for a very, very long time.
I thought you meant when
You know, it's
Luffy
like
supposedly
that.
died.
Oh, that too. But especially the
Boom, boom.
in Gear 5th, because it shows boom boom sound effect in Gear 5th, and it even shows it with musical notes, which we won't get into how the relevance of music today, but we'll do it in the next stream. But that'll be relevant in the future. But yeah, I just wanted to point out to anybody watching, you know, keep these things in mind when we're learning more in the new chapters, and think back and also appreciate Oda's writing. Because it's like you said earlier, it was like, man, when you look at Luffy and the concept of air and breathing into his Gear 2nd, 3rd, and it's like, yeah, Oda's been thinking about this stuff for a very long time, basically from the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Unlike the previous three, in which the elements of earth, water, and fire were much more explicitly seen in Haki, it takes a bit more understanding of Chi to get why air is present in observation Haki. Remember that Chi, spirit, and prana all mean breath. And well, what is it that you breathe? An easy answer is air. And don't get confused by the name Heart Chakra. It is centered in the heart, but it actually covers the whole chest area and even hands. I'm sure there is some connection between the heart and Sanji's significance to his hands, but I won't get into that. The significance of air in relation to observation Haki is that air is the essence of the spirit all around us. With observation Haki, you can sense the spirit, or in other words, sense the air in other things. The more alive something is, the more air they breathe. The heart chakra is the meeting point between the physical and spiritual, the inner and outer world. The air from outside enters us, then is utilized and transformed within us. The blood our heart pumps requires oxygen, aka air, so you can imagine why it's called heart chakra and not lung chakra. While you breathe air into your lungs, heart chakra is about more than just the air we breathe that helps us live, but what we do with the air that keeps us alive. Ultimately, the air is used to fuel our hearts. Breathing fuels our soul. In many ways, the heart itself can be seen as our soul. More on that later. Notice how Zoro described the tree as having a heartbeat. Plant life may be inanimate for the most part, but it's still alive in the normal sense. This will be relevant, especially in trying to understand the connection between Haki and devil fruits, you know,
Yeah.
given that they are fruits.
Souls of our ancestors who have died on this island over the past several centuries. Oh, this was in what's it called, Shandia or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, so they was dwelling in the trees. So you think something along like how the souls were able to dwell in trees, like maybe the Void Century or the Ancient Kingdom maybe allowed them to dwell into fruits?
Quite possibly. All right. The reason we probably don't see basic observation haki detect the breath of all things is due to it being far easier to relate to animals than it is a rock or even a tree. If I were to describe the first level observation haki in one word, it would be empathy. The reason for this is that when one vibrates with the heart chakra, they are getting in touch with their own inner spirit and opening their heart to the emotions of others around them. This has the upside of being able to tell who has ill will towards you and who is genuinely on your side. The downside to this is that it can leave you with a false sense of security if someone is really good at concealing their presence and or emotion. And an even worse side effect is that if the person's heart is too open, or in other words, if they are too empathetic, it can cause them to take on the pain of others' hearts. The heart chakra is the middle of all 7 chakras, centered between the physical and spiritual. It heightens your physical sense, making you more aware of your surroundings as well as better instincts and reflexes. Anybody that wants to become a master sniper needs observation haki because it can increase the potency of one's eyesight. Observation haki is a power that comes in handy even outside of battle. It can be used to enhance the sense of smell, which can really come in handy if you're looking for food, and can even be used to determine the ingredients used in a dish. Its physical benefits only apply to observation haki at its most basic level. The rest is all in the spirit. Think about the first time we seen observation haki. It was in the form of mantra used by the sky people. This is very symbolic and appropriate. The physical realm is considered earthly and the spiritual is heavenly. So of course those that look like angels will be better at using a power that leans more towards the spiritual. The reason being more spiritually sensitive can aid a person in battle is because the warrior isn't just detecting their physical movement, but also the presence behind the attack. This is why Enel couldn't use mantra to predict Luffy's movement when Rubber Boy stopped putting any intent behind his attacks. Nami erroneously speculates that Enel was reading minds, but there was something I wanted to just make a quick comment so I don't forget it, but this was the beginning of me thinking about how the environment can affect somebody's haki.
Yeah.
And it was funny, you just talking to me earlier about how like there could be chakra points on the earth. And I was thinking to myself, like, if it was in One Piece, how could I, which place be what? Like, I would think Fishman Island would have to be sacral because it's water. I think of Wano would probably be like the solar plexus because of their association with fire so much. You know, I think of Shandoria might be like, it could be Heart Chakra maybe because it's air.
I was thinking Mary Jo would probably be Crown or something.
Yeah.
Because
I just wanted to
that's for the gods
interject that real quick. Yeah.
Well, I know it would have to probably be something, maybe like root or something. I don't know. Maybe.
Wano, I think, because the animals a lot of have like fire patterns, so I think of Wano as like a fire type of. If I were to say root,
too,
it might be like Elbaf, since they're all like giants, and giants are usually associated with the earth.
I would think probably anywhere with like a poneglyph, honestly. You know, or like at least a special poneglyph. Maybe not like, you know. I probably wouldn't say like since Fishman Island is like right under Mary Joa, you know, I would think they would kind of be like one and the same, you know. But Mary Joa being, you know, just that specific spot on the planet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what these guys saying.
Yep.
One Life Man said, if water if water fruit exists, I think that's the strongest one. What if there's an ancient fruit in the moon and no one discovered it yet? One Life Man is all over the place today. You you just come in asking like the most random stuff.
A moon god.
I don't know if there's an ancient. I don't know. I don't know if there's.
Yeah.
I think there's something on the moon, but I don't know if it's a devil fruit. And then Adam says like a magnetic pole.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Which would be weird. Like I would think the poles would be chakra points as well, but I don't think they are. We got Cube in the building. Shout out to Cube. He says, "I'd see Emu having a Mother Nature devil fruit with his water property aspect." I don't think there would be like a water fruit. At least a Logia, maybe like a zone that could use water or something along that line. You know.
Oh my god.
I think Aokiji probably the closest we're gonna get to a water fruit though. Well,
here's a theory that I'm working on, but I've never, like, I have shown on my channel that this is a theory I'm working on, but I haven't really talked about it much. But you know, and it's so relevant now more than ever. But I've had this theory for like a year now. But because we found out that Nika is a fruit, you know, we're wondering and speculating, oh, what fruit does Emu have? Well, what if Emu is a fruit?
What if Emu is a fruit?
Yeah. Yeah.
A living fruit?
Yeah. Like, what if he or she can put their consciousness in a fruit, and whoever eats the fruit, their consciousness is completely taken over. Basically a form of body snatching. And that's how Emu's immortal. That's basically my theory, is that, you know, what if Emu knows how to put their soul into a fruit?
Man, that would be... And maybe there's some type of relation, because a lot of people talk about how Hakuba, or not Hakuba, but Cavendish and Hakuba, or Hakuba is pretty much Eam taking over Cavendish. That's what, you know, that's a theory that I heard. And it will kind of play into Eam's ability to control, you know. I don't know, like, I don't know how he would get like control on somebody else, especially if they didn't eat the devil fruit themselves and he just take over their body. But you know, it could be something to it.
All right, I'll let it play now. But and now himself describes it more as feeling what is to come. Once again, allow me to emphasize that the heart chakra is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual, so it makes sense with it a physical person can interpret things that exist on a spiritual plane of existence. Mind you, there's a difference between the physical heart and the spiritual heart that is named after said organ. The spiritual heart is actually symbolic and formless, but ironically can actually be considered what gives your spirit a form in the first place. Think about this, if everyone is chi, even the earth you stand on and the air you breathe, then wouldn't that overwhelm anyone that uses observation haki to sense chi? If chi is literally all around you in all directions, in and outside of you, then that will cause a sensory overload for most people. It is true in that context we are basically in an ocean of chi, and should we recognize reality for what it is, then we would drown. That is why the first level of observation haki focuses on one of the most important, if not the most important ingredient of the soul when it comes to humans. The heart is basically like the DNA of the spirit, a soul stitched together by emotions. It's hard to be empathetic and detect the emotions of a tree or a rock, so again showing why the average observation haki user wouldn't be using the breath of all things. The heart being used to turn a spirit into a soul is the very reason the heart is virtually synonymous. I don't really call attention to it in a narration, but this is such a great point. You know, I keep on trying to explain how, like, there's a physical understanding of something, and then there's the spiritual concept of it. And you look at Smoker. He's already missing his heart, his, like, physical heart.
Oh, yeah, he was.
It's already gone.
Yeah,
but you can see laws removing his spiritual heart.
Mm-hmm.
And this was before I knew the word kokoro. This is gonna be a big thing in Understanding Haki Part 4, and I've been incorporating it more in my recent videos. But once again, for those who don't know, in Japanese they have a word called kokoro, which means basically heart and spirit and even mind all at the same time. You know, you've seen I made that like chart of like what I think the components of each color of Haki is.
Yeah.
And it was like the body, spirit, and mind. And you notice that the body and the spirit, the spirit and the mind usually were like around the same amount. And when it was like white, it was 50-50 mind and spirit. And you even asked me, like, why are they seemingly almost similar, like the same? That's because of this term known as kokoro. It's like, it's insinuating that they can almost be treated as one and the same, even though they're also simultaneously separate. But yeah, it's a big concept to look into, especially now more than ever with Gear 5th.
Yeah. Makes sense.
With the soul. Law has an ability to remove a person's heart. Actually, he has two different techniques that allow him to remove two different types of hearts. With one, he can remove a literal beating heart from the body, but another allows him to remove the spiritual heart. By putting Sanji's spiritual heart in Nami's body, you essentially had his soul inhabit her body. Everyone knows that the heart is symbolic of one's emotion. With this in mind, you can see why those that use observation Haki are able to gauge the emotion of others through the context of their spirit, also known as Haki. Being an empathetic warrior is a great way to predict what a person's next move is, but there's an even better way with the next level of observation Haki, known as future sight.
Your emotions, which really are the most powerful and important of your 6 physical vibrational interpreters, give you constant feedback about the harmonics of your current thoughts or vibrations, as they compare with the harmonics of your core vibrational state. The non-physical world is vibration, and your physical world that you know is vibration. There's nothing that exists outside of this.
I just want to say, like, the narrator's talking about it from a spiritual concept that, look, everything's vibration. But even in scientific, they say electromagnetism virtually covers almost everything that we comprehend in reality.
Yeah.
Scientific perspective. And that involves vibration. So I just want to hammer that in for people to understand, especially, you know, with our Western way of viewing things. A lot of people look at One Piece from this perspective, like, oh, it's just everything's just gonna have like some kind of One Piece world scientific explanation.
Yeah.
But there's such a wealth in different ways to look at One Piece when you take into consideration, and that's like what drives me to make these theories. Because on my channel, like, the theories that have the most views are like ones that are plot related, or, you know, I made a theory about what Law could be doing, or I made this theory about like Kuma Doherty and what he could do in Wano. Like, those get me more views. But these are ones I'm actually more passionate about. These are ones I actually like doing, because I feel like I'm presenting something new and useful, and could expand people's minds on One Piece, and they could then, you know, apply that to their own theories. You know, it's great for me to talk about my own ideas of where the story can go, but it means more to me when someone tells me that, hey, your theory inspired me to think of this, and that about One Piece, and now I'm wondering this, and, you know, that's my greatest takeaway.
That's like the plight of being a YouTuber, right? It's like the stuff that you want to do, you know, like the stuff that you're passionate, you know, like the topics that you're passionate to talk about, you know, they don't do as well as topics that, you know, kind of like the easy stuff to talk about that everybody talk about. So yeah, that's definitely a one of them dilemmas. That's why you always gotta find that balance of being able to give people, you know, the easy stuff, you know, the popcorn, and sometimes you gotta give them the, you know, the gourmet food. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cube said the name Emu might be the name of the fruit, like Fornica. And then Adam says, bingo, I think there are tons of fruit tree people, including Luffy in part.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay, I guess.
I'm ready when you ready.
Gotcha.
This man over there eating something.
This vibrational nature.
Snapping.
And there's nothing that is not managed by the law of attraction. Your understanding of vibration will help you to consciously bridge both worlds.
Now we move up the chakra ladder and get to throat. But we're actually going to put that aside and take a look at the third eye. If only it was as simple as just a straight line, but I believe throat chakra actually belongs to conquerors, so I will tackle that one after. Now believe it or not, I didn't just simply go and look at the 7 chakras and figure out how convenient it would be for the lower chakras to be armament, the middle to be observation, and the top to be conquerors. I made my decision by analyzing each characteristics and making an educated guess. Okay, so let's start over with a second take. Yeah, I'm trying to think back to when I was even making this theory. I think what happened was just one day, I was actually thinking about Naruto and like, you know, they literally call their power as chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to relate because I was also, you know, kind of new to chakra, learning about chakras at the time. I might have like had a year, maybe a year and a half learning about this stuff. A lot of my life, like I really didn't look into spirituality and stuff like that. I was kind of like agnostic, even leaning more towards like atheist and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Definitely not religious, still not religious, but that's besides the point. I was thinking about Naruto and like, how does this concept of chakra relate to Naruto? And it really doesn't, surprisingly, even though it does to a point, but not like fire chakra. You can't really relate the fire style, you know, fireball jutsu. It doesn't relate as much to solar plexus in concept because it's much more just like, here's an element that I'm just turning this energy into an element. And you can do that for any style. Like you could just turn any element into a jutsu. You could even mix them together for the new jutsus. And that's not how chakra works in the actual version of chakra. It's just a system. You know, it's like your organs is a system. Your heart does this, your lungs does this, your kidneys does this. So you can't really apply it in the same way to Naruto. But then one day, I was just thinking about it, One Piece, and it always bugged me that it didn't make sense of like how Luffy was able to use Red Hawk, because that's a lot of like, that's a lot of where my theories come from. Is like trying to make sense of things that don't make sense. And the easy answer is it's just fiction, so you don't have to think about it. You could just, you know, accept it as it is. But I like to go, you know what, maybe there's more to it. And that's when it kind of hit me. I was like, wait a second. We know chakras work like this. And when I look at the way chakras work and the way Haki works, it kind of makes sense. Mind you, I wasn't even thinking about the fact that Haki, there was colors to Haki.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that really until part 3. I say it in the beginning of the video. I was like, I can't believe I didn't mention this in part 2.
Yeah.
Because everybody just says arm and Haki, Chakras, Haki, observation. Nobody says color of arms. Like, we don't say that, even though that's actually accurate. That is the technical term. We just say arm and Haki.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't at the forefront of my thought. Once I realized that, it really blew my mind. I was like, I made this theory this whole time, and it actually makes even more sense than I thought it did.
Yeah. If
But yeah, that's just kind of a
colors part.
Yeah, that's like an origin story to this theory, like how I even got to it. It started with thinking about Naruto, realizing that was a dead end. There was nothing much to it. And then I realized One Piece actually was more accurate to chakra, ironically enough, than Naruto, that literally uses the word.
Q said, ELiDZ, your theory made me realize that Red Rock and Ashura might be a form of armament that is more external, opposite to Rio.
where you're
Yeah,
going with that.
I mean, we talked about, you know, dabbled in that about how observation or how hockey can create, you know, or manifest other abilities. Angel's Room said, like the stream, get them likes up, get them likes up. Sorry, y'all. I know my energy's not as up as it is today. I'm a little tired. I had to get up a lot earlier than I normally do for some stuff, so I'm a little low on energy today, and so y'all gotta forgive me for that.
All's pardon.
You ready?
Yeah. One thing I want to point out, I didn't point out earlier, is I used that Fujitora clip when he's in Dressrosa and he sees the citizens running by him, and then you can see from his point of view what they look like, and they're just a bunch of different colors.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of goes to my point about the hearts. You see, that to me, that is an example. That's a very good concept of what these hearts look like. It's not even it's definitely not the organic heart that looks like a raisin with tubes on it. It's definitely not. I mean, it is the, you know, comical sharp shape of a heart that looks like a butt. But
Peach.
no pun intended. I think even that isn't exactly accurate. That's just more to help us understand that it's not the organic heart. Really, it's almost formless in a way, but also just the person. It's just the essence of the person. So them being silhouetted with just color, I think that's a great representation of just a bunch of people existing, and they all have their different colored hearts.
Okay. Yeah.
But
it makes sense because that always definitely stuck out to me. Like the fact that, you know, he's using his observation, but he sees them in color, like different colors.
All right. Now we're going to move on to the Sharingan chakra. Actually, no, it's called the Third Eye Chakra. And of course, we got Katakuri. Let's do this. The Third Eye Chakra is that of the mind. Its element is light. Given that this chakra has to do with intuition, one might wonder, why doesn't observation haki begin and end with the third eye? While it is true in the physical sense, we would look at our brains being our true selves, simply in a vessel that we know as our body. This sentiment is not entirely true in the spiritual sense.
So when we kind of pertain devil fruits to haki, right? I think the perfect devil fruit ability that would probably apply for this is Viola's.
Viola, yes,
the clairvoyant
definitely.
devil fruit. Hers,
Definitely.
and maybe Brule to a degree because she could kind of see through mirrors and stuff. She's somewhat clairvoyant.
100%. And you know who else? Pudding.
Yeah.
And I'll explain why. And you might think light, it's not just eyes, but even the light component. And I'll explain more. But yeah, I like that. I think there are devil fruits where you can clearly see which color of haki shines the most. You look at someone like, dang, what the heck is his name? Jozu. And he can turn into diamond. It's like you can clearly see he's definitely more earth element. You look at Ace, obviously fire. That's gonna be more solar plexus. I do think there's some devil fruits where it's a lot more obvious where the main element is incorporated.
I also think Mihawk might be associated with the third eye.
Definitely, and that would make sense because a lot of people would think, you know, if you're a swordsman, you're going to want to be more armament. But that's not entirely true. If you look at the breadth of all things, yes, it showed Zoro utilizing Ryo in terms of like armament haki, but also he was detecting things around him, which is obviously observation. So I think they both have equal relevance. And also, you know, building a relationship and understanding your sword and sensing that uses observation. You know, even though Zoro's clearly better with armament, it's actual factual in the SBS. Oda says, you know, he's associated with armament, but he needs observation. as a swordsman, it does play a crucial role. So I do think Mihawk, even with his black sword, obviously if he has a black sword, you know he has to be really good at armament.
Yeah.
But even so, you could understand as a swordsman, looking at the breadth of all things, why observation would be so important.
Yeah. You know, I was just thinking, I feel as though you could probably associate every straw hat with a chakra point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Usopp would definitely be the third eye.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Luffy being like the crown. I would probably say Frankie would be like the root. Either Frankie or Chopper would be like the root. Because they seem like more physical guys, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of maybe Zoro will be like the voice or the throat or something.
I think Zoro is because he's armament, he would have to be one of the first three, and I think it's Sacral.
Oh, well, maybe
because Rio,
Nami would be the throat.
Yeah, I could see Nami. Luffy, I feel like he would actually be the throat.
I kind of associated him with Crown because.
I think of his personality.
Yeah. I kind of associated with the Crown for him being, you know, because when I look at the Crown, I kind of look at the, you know, at the top, not necessarily saying it's better or the best, but it's just kind of at the top of the, you know, it's at the top. It's the head, right? So, and I look at Luffy as the head of the Straw Hat. So
the crown is the most spiritual. Is the most spiritual. In if I were to say between Luffy and another crew member, I would put Brook more closer to the crown. Just because the crown isn't just about being at the top. It is literally the most spiritual. It is like detached from the physical. It's about the power. It's this concept called source. It's all things, you know, the breath of all things, the voice of all things. That's what all things is in that. That's the crown chakra. I think if someone would represent the crown chakra, they have to be super special. Even Brook, I don't think any of the Straw Hats really would represent the crown chakra. It's so special.
Luffy got a deity devil fruit.
Yeah,
pretty much.
But that's his devil fruit. That's
how
not
spiritual
him.
is that though? Like, but
yeah,
he like inherited like the will of like dead people. You know what I'm saying? But I get what you're saying. Cube says Sanji seems more armament and Zoro more observational. I mean his Diablo John, but we kind of talked about this earlier. But I guess you missed it. I mean his Diablo Jamba seems very to Red Rock now, so makes sense. Well, Nami's inspiration is linked to a crown. It's called a sacred crown, aka King's. Yeah, we kind of talked about the whole Sanji being like why Sanji fits the Heart Chakra better than, you know, when it does make sense. Like, it do make sense that Sanji would be more hot armament based, but he's like...
that's the thing. People aren't just fighters. Haki may be mostly used for fighting, but I think what it comes first is who you are as a person, your personality type.
Yeah.
Fighting is really a physical thing. So if you only thought about it from the terms of fighting, everybody would be armament, really, for the most part. There'd be like very few people that would be anything but armament.
But Zoro's
so if you
definitely
think about just the fighting and what they have to do, you're thinking about armament. But if you're thinking about their personality and who they are as a person, you know, Sanji is much more than a fighter. In fact, that's not even his role on the crew. Isn't fighting, it's cooking. And it's a lot more to his character than fighting.
Yeah. All right, let's continue.
Gotcha. It is actually our hearts that make us who we are on the inside. This is even true in the world of One Piece. First example I would want to point to is the way mantra is said to work. It is described as hearing the voice of living beings. But this doesn't mean it's their minds that they are listening to, it's their emotion. the force that comes from their heart. Once again, recall when Law had the Straw Hats switch bodies. It wasn't their brains that were transferred, but rather their hearts. The purpose of our minds is to store information like data for our hearts to call upon as memories. Oh, what a coincidence! The character with the third eye has memory powers. Or maybe that's not a coincidence. More on that later. If we were to just be brains, inhabiting a body, operating purely off data, then we'd be no different than robots. It's truly our emotions that make us alive, rather than us just being self-operating objects. One of the 7 layers of spiritual bodies is the emotional body. The strength of emotion will empower the body, thus empowers the spirit overall. This is why you see in a lot of fiction, especially battle shonen, strength coincides with emotions. The emotions of a character can allow them a power that surpasses what they are physically capable of. Side note, if you happen to be a fan of Naruto and also would like a better explanation of the difference between the heart, soul, and mind, check out my second episode of Deep Dive Case Madara. I'll go over the spirit and how that then connects to the heart. The soul represents a part of the universe. It is the life force that animates the inanimate. It is continually recycled, birth, death, and rebirth. I go into great detail all of these spiritual concepts. But let's get back on topic. So yeah, that kind of gives you an insight of like, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, how I was like kind of like looking at Naruto from this whole chakra thing, and that was kind of like the extent of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this concept of brain versus mind, it's a very hard concept to understand in both the story and real life. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people struggle with this every day, trying to understand, like,
brain
I think
versus
a lot
mind.
of people, yeah, have like conflicting thoughts and feelings more than sometimes they might even realize.
Are you kind of relating it to physical versus spiritual?
Somewhat.
Where your mind
Somewhat
is
in a
more your
way,
spiritual
because
brain?
yeah, it's like there's your brain,
Mm-hmm.
which is physical. Like, your brain is there. It's like actual, really is storing data. You know,
Yeah.
your brain is like a memory card. It is like an SD chip. You know,
It's like
it's
a command
actually
center.
storing data in there. Yeah. But then there's these concept of like, can you actually feel things in your body more than just your brain? Can you have thoughts in your body more than just whatever's going through your mind? And that's like a lot of what the whole concept of spiritual awakening, trying to get towards enlightenment and stuff. A lot of that plays a role. It's like it's really about self-discovery, understanding yourself, finding balance within yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's relevant in that stories are allegorical. So the stuff that's happening in One Piece, and you see these Haki abilities and all this stuff, you can look at it as allegories for like real life. Luffy learning how to or getting in tune with the emotions of his opponents that he's fighting. Like, that stuff you can actually apply to real life. Like, we're not out here fighting people every day. Oh, I hope we're not getting into fights. But we do have to deal with other people, whether it's enemies or even relationships or, our family, our friends. Like, we have to, sometimes you can't just think of everything from a physical or logical perspective. You got to understand people's emotions. Sometimes you got to read their emotions. Sometimes you could even feel their emotions in ways that are illogical and not understanding. That's where like empathy comes in, and empaths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to just let people in. That's like one of the driving factors of me making these type of theories, is like, maybe some people can take away things and like apply it to their real life.
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful. You're doing a big service to the community, man. Like, I think someday people will be going back to watch your content and be like, man, like they'll be creating their own little stories based off what your information put. You know,
Yeah.
maybe we'll be
Okay.
maybe Oda himself would see which the stuff you did and you know use some of it to create some explanations.
Oh, slow down.
Huh?
As I slow down, you're gonna make me jump out of my chair.
I was just saying, man. I hear like one thing I heard about Oda was sometimes he forgets things about his story, like maybe certain characters that like small characters that he haven't really had to like write anything about, but he sees like the community talking about it, and he uses like the community to remember things. Like he used us as like a resource to get him back on track. Angel said your thoughts are not you. And Q said they'll make a statue of ELiDZ. I forgot where I heard that from. That your thoughts are not you. I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, there's this
TV
saying.
shows.
It's like I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something like your mind shouldn't be your master. The goal is to master your own mind.
Yeah.
Right? You're not supposed to be a slave to your own thoughts. And the same is true for feelings. You shouldn't be a slave to your feelings. You shouldn't be impulsive. Everything
exactly.
in balance. Just getting balance in life, like figuring out how to. As a human being, we're full of systems. That's kind of what chakra is. It's about trying to conceptualize these things.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe in supernatural things to look into chakra and understand how it could be applied to your life. Like, you could just treat it all allegorical and still think like, you know what? I do have these thoughts, but I also have these feelings, and how can I better myself and deal with these trials and tribulations of my life and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm ready. Ready for this video.
Have you ever heard of photographic memory? It takes a really powerful mind to have one. That's because it's using the light element of the third eye to put together an image made from the data stored in the brain. That data, or in other words, memories, wouldn't be there had the heart not experienced those events in the past. Now, what if the heart could experience something before it happened? The first level only reacts to things as they are happening in the present. The second level uses the light of the mind to put together a mental image of what is going to happen. That seems like it's seeing the future, but what it's actually doing is giving you a memory of something that hasn't even happened yet. Think how deep that is. Katakuri isn't seeing the future. It's almost like he's just remembering something that hasn't happened. Like
But then that would mean he had to go into the future and remember it, and then come back to the present and then act on it.
Yeah, that's what makes it so like beyond physical comprehension. That's why it's such a spiritual concept.
It could make sense. Like, it's not like he's physically going into the future. It's like he's projecting his being. He's projecting himself, his heart chakra. He's projecting it into the future, and then learning some, or it's third eye.
Well, think about this. There's this concept of like we are tethered to the earth, or we're tethered to a physical plane, but then there's the spiritual body, right? That's all spiritually existing simultaneously while we're in this physical presence. So it's almost like he can untether his spirit to go beyond the limitations of what's physical. So he can see a reality, an existence where time is sped up or time is ahead.
Yeah.
But it's also an observation in like taking in your surroundings. It really, part of it is it's a simulation when you think about it from like a video game perspective. In video games, they have this thing called rollback. It's a rollback netcode. And when you're playing online, like there's a certain way where the game can predict what's going to happen before it happens because it's a simulation. It's just equations. it's everything's stored in the game as data. There's a game isn't like magic. Your video game isn't magic. Everything's
No.
already in the CD, or it's already in the system. It's
Mm-hmm.
just programming. So everything that is going to happen is just already there. There's nothing we're making that isn't already of the game.
Yeah.
So if you apply it to what Katakuri's doing, it's like almost like the world is a simulation, which that gets really deep,
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
Matrix and how that could apply in a spiritual way, but we're not gonna go into that. But yeah, it's like data. Data isn't just what's going on in technological. In fact, data comes before technology. Data is literally, if you're watching a baseball game and you're counting how many home runs or whatever statistics, it's just all data. So there could be spiritual data as well. Oh my gosh, I'm sounding like Kingdom Hearts. If anybody's familiar with Kingdom Hearts, that game is insane. That's what Kingdom Hearts inspired me to make a YouTube channel. But that's
Hey man, shout out to Kingdom Hearts. I haven't played it myself, but I know
the story is out of this world.
No, it's a big game though.
For better or for worse, the story is really out there. But yeah, I just wanted to really in the video, I have to keep on moving, but I just wanted to take a second to really take it in, remembering something that hasn't even happened.
Yeah.
How like a crazy of a concept that is. But you can understand why it's future sight. Because if you think about it, it's contradictory for it to be future sight if you see it happen, but you don't, because you see it doesn't happen. Then it's not really the future if it didn't happen.
Yeah, you just kind of avoid, or you know what it could be. You know what I'm thinking it is. Like if you look at time as a spectrum, right? Like you exist in the past, you exist in the future, you exist in the present, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe future sight is kind of like what you said, but you're more so hopping into your future self, gaining his knowledge. You know what I mean? Like you're pretty much getting knowledge from your future self. You know what I mean?
Now we're going to Attack on Titan territory. I don't keep up with the manga. Well, the manga's over, but I just recently finished the latest season. I don't know if you or anybody else seen it, but
I guess I'm kind of thinking like
that, but
if you're familiar with like Marvel, right?
mm-hmm.
There's a character named King the Conqueror. Yeah, he's like he kind of exists outside of time, so he knows what's going to happen. Yeah, I mean if you watch Loki pretty much set up for King the Conqueror at the end. I don't without spoiling too much. But yeah,
I almost made a video on that. Hey, that's my favorite Marvel thing in a long time.
Yeah, I'm ready when you ready.
All right then. Yeah. Future sight is great and all, but the downside is that it requires a great deal of concentration. It's best not to be distracted when using basic observation haki. However, Heart Chakra is quite close to the solar plexus, thus it's much easier to count on your gut instincts. However, the higher you go up the chakra channels, the less you require or rely on physical. Also, notice that correlation. Gut instincts, right? Instinct is more like observation, but there's the gut instinct. And the gut is where the solar plexus would be. So that kind of goes back to addressing what Cube was saying. That's another reason as to why Sanji, even though he is factually observation haki, that's his affinity. Otis stated it. But why would someone observation haki be excelling at a high level of armament with Diablo Jonga and fire and all that stuff? Because on the spectrum, it's close to the heart. There's the gut instinct. So it makes sense the more you understand spirituality, all these things. Because at the beginning, it doesn't make sense. So many people have said to me, Sanji can't have fire haki if he's not as good as Zoro and Luffy. How come he's the best at it? But it does make sense because you got to really look into these things and understand why it makes sense. Why there's a spectrum. But yeah, I just want to point that out.
It's like it could be confusing, but it makes sense.
Yeah. That's why his video's an hour long. Physical attributes. As I mentioned earlier, emotions are a source of spiritual power. So it only makes sense that the more power relies on the spirit, the more affected it will be by emotional disturbances. When Katakuri was embarrassed by his siesta being witnessed by others, it messed with his ability to use future sight. On the flip side, it is no coincidence that folks like Lucci or Virgo are so good at using root chakra based haki. They aren't very emotional beings, thus it would make sense that they'd focus their efforts on mastering a haki type that is the most physical, or in other words, least spiritual / emotional. Just some advice for those that want to get into spirituality. If you're trying to address and treat your frequency levels, then you are more inclined to do yoga, tai chi, or many other physical activities for the lower levels. On the contrary, you should be more inclined to meditate for the higher. So this is to address Cube's other thing where he was like, Zoro's more observation. He seems more observation. I think that's because he takes his meditation very seriously, which then supports his armament. You know, I can go too deep into it. We talked about it like 2 streams already, but the color of someone's heart, I think the color of Zoro's heart is orange for Sakura. That's the second level of armament, what we know as Rio.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate because Wano, Zoro, Rio, they're all end in O. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
They're all Japan based. But I think his Rio is supported by observation, both heart and third eye. Because he gets so in touch with himself, and then he can project, right? Like a light, like a projection. With the third eye, he can project this vision in his mind, which is Ashura, which has a physical presence because he's armament based.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Second thing to address what Cube said.
Yeah. Zoro is
just a little
spiritual. I was saying Zoro is spiritual though. That's how he's able to manifest a guide to fit to. But yeah, that's
he has what would I say? I think he's much more faith. Well, not even faith. It's hard to say. I wouldn't say religious, but you know, he has a doctrine. You know, he follows something. He actually, unlike unlike Luffy and Sanji, he actually says mantras.
Discipline.
Like, yeah, he has discipline. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's a swordsman, and you know, he's like, it's almost like that is his religion.
Mm-hmm. And who is the best swordsman in the world? The same guy who just so happens to wear a cross on his neck.
Yes, sir.
So is that a coincidence?
Yes, sir. Goat Hawk. Okay. Goat Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's continue.
Tidbit I wanted to add. Another downside and great proof of why basic observation is just as good and still needed is that even if you can see ahead, you would still need to be able to physically react to what the future holds. Seeing the future can prepare you for what would happen, but should you choose to change the outcome, then you are going to have to be able to react to the... That's why Rock Lee beat Sasuke the first time. And even if the enemy can't see the future, they can still predict what you do in the present. Lastly, remember what I said about the multiple layers of spiritual body and how it is like different planes of existence. Well, now I'm going to dive deeper into that topic. Shout out to Best Gen. He went way more into how light is relevant to devil fruits, and it pairs so well with my own theory about understanding Haki because I say it's colors of Haki. When you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, you could understand more how relevant that is. Yeah. And like I said earlier, well, the root chakras could be the most important because that's the body. Heart chakra, because it's the heart. All those things. Well, then third eye could be the most important because it actually deals with color more so than any other. So it's like everyone is like, you can argue is the most important.
Yeah. They're all important in their own way, right?
Yep, exactly.
It's kind of like
given that the different levels to which spiritual existence can be interpreted, it stands to reason that there are levels to which a person can perceive spiritual presence. What I mean by this is that not all observation Haki is equal when it comes to what can be perceived. Being able to see into the future is one way that observation Haki can go beyond basic. However, characters like Aiza and Kobe have observation so powerful it's almost like they can read minds. Really, what they are doing is interpreting the voice of emotions. There is an emotional plane of existence when it comes to the spirit. Also, look at Zoro and the breath of all things. That's advanced observation because not only could he detect the presence of living things, but non-living things as well. Then you have the voice of all things that only some are able to inherently hear. I believe this all has to do with being able to use the third eye to see all spiritual levels of existence. And what do you know? Big Mom said that a person of the third eye tribe would be able to read the poneglyph. In my opinion, that means they have to unlock, activate, and master the third eye chakra. See, that's the thing about my theory, is that I'm presenting a whole lot of information that already exists, that has already exists for thousands of years. And it's saying like how this could be applied to Haki. But it's not just that. There's evidence in the story that also support why this could be the case. You know, there's a third eye chakra, and Oda has presented a third eye character. And this third eye character, if awakened, because that's the thing, it's not just that they have a third eye, which again is another example of the separation between the physical and the spiritual. Physically, she has a third eye, but it's not about physically having a third eye. It's about really unlocking that third eye,
being able
and
to
opening
use
the
it
third eye on a spiritual level.
right now. She got a car and don't even got a permit.
Yeah. I wonder if Katakuri could teach her. She doesn't even know it.
No.
But who knows? Maybe he will. Okay.
I mean, how do you teach?
It only makes sense that someone of the third eye tribe would be able to master the full potential of the third eye chakra, which would then give them the ability to see what is meant to be heard by the voice of all things. Also, is it any surprise that the person with a third eye also has a power centered around memory, data, and photography? The root word for photo is light, just like the element of the third eye. You see, just like you were saying about how like, oh, Viola has a strong relevance in Brûlé.
Mm-hmm.
That is just one of those things where it's like, when I think about my theory, like, it's so out there. There's so much into it. I bring in so many things without it being confirmed. But it's like, look at that coincidence. It could have been anybody else that got that devil fruit, that dealt with memory, data, and photography, which the root word of photo is light, like I said. But it just so happened to be the very same person that has a literal third eye. In more than just a third eye, but it involves a third eye chakra. Because third eye is like something that is in mythology. You know, it's not just a Hindu, a chakra-based thing. So this person could have a third eye, and this third eye can turn people into stone if you look at it, like anything like that. But it just so happens that it matches up damn near perfectly with this chakra theory.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things that kind of inspired me to keep on going with it, because I'm like, there's so many things that can help confirm it.
Another character I'll throw in there too, as well, is Madam Shirley.
That is a very, very good point. I do think that there are characters who inherently are very in tune with certain chakras. And another person I can look to, it would be like Big Mom, who just, like, for some reason is tough naturally. Or here's a fodder character. Here's a character that's not even that relevant, but still just so happens to be like inherently tough for no reason. You remember the Funk brothers?
The ones who followed Zoro?
No, the Funk brothers were in the Gladiator. They were in the arena. There were two brothers. One of them could turn into a jacket, and then there was the other brother who was just like scared and cowardly.
Oh yeah, he wears the bro, like the one that fights. Where's the one?
It was Kelly and Bobby. I don't remember which one was which. But one of them was the scared one, but his body was like really tough for some reason. Like, I think there's people in the world that are kind of like born. You know, Isa from Skype is another person. I think she just naturally has a strong heart chakra. She doesn't have to train for it. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
There could just be people born.
Maybe Vivi as well.
Yep.
I was thinking that moment in Alabaster where they couldn't hear her voice or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm confusing chakras though. You know, maybe it's a different chakra I'm thinking for Vivi. But yeah. Adam says Sanji and Nami got that power of love. The Angels room.
Fist of love.
Angels room said, yeah, Garp fist of love, exactly. And Nami, you could probably say Nami. Yeah, he did say Nami. Sanji and Nami. Angels room said this is a lot of stuff to take in. It is, brother. It is. It's an hour worth. I mean, we probably only gonna watch like half though.
Yeah, just half.
We're not gonna watch all of it. But yeah.
Okay, are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I take it all as evidence of Oda's genius writing. That covers observation haki. So now we move on to the final one, Haki of the Kings.
When we have a feeling in our hearts, we're creating electrical and magnetic waves inside of our bodies that extend beyond our bodies into the world around us. And what's so interesting is the research shows that those waves extend not just 1 meter or 2 meters, many, many kilometers beyond where our heart physically resides.
I already told you that throat chakra is one of the two, and by process of elimination, the crown chakra is also. So, I cut it off at a weird point, but I just wanted to talk about that, what he said about how it creates electromagnetic waves. When you think of magnetism, you're usually like magnetic powers. You would just think of kids' devil fruit power. Right?
Yeah.
Magnet, very simple. They're just like human magnets. But this whole concept that I'm trying to get across, you look at the sacral chakra, it has water, but it's not physical water. You kind of have to think of things a lot more convoluted. You kind of have to think of things. You gotta, abstract thought. You gotta apply abstract thought to these things. Haki can be magnetic, possibly in the way similar to like Kid. Another example we were talking about earlier, how like the more important characters have devil fruits that are more relevant to these type of things.
Yeah.
Kid is a great example. But anyway, you can't think of it from that point of view. But another concept of magnetism is attractiveness. How magnetic could someone be in a spiritual way? And what relevance this has.
Luffy.
When you think of yes, exactly. Luffy. What he is to other people.
Yeah. That was easy.
I think this applies for a lot of very easy. I think this is
I was thinking just
is,
the fact that he want to be Pirate King, and it's just like it's like fated for him. So it's like he just ultimately like it's almost like the title Pirate King is attracting Luffy more so.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
That is a good point. Like, does what role does destiny play in this? Are there things out there in the world that are on another plane of existence attracting? Do certain people meet coincidentally, or were they drawn together in a way that's beyond understanding? In fact, think about devil fruit. Think about what they said about Nika's devil fruit, how it's like somehow it's been avoiding the world government. What if that devil fruit drawn Luffy in? What if that devil fruit, make it even crazier. What if the devil fruit somehow was affecting Shanks and his crew to be kidnapped?
That's what I was thinking. That's what I believe.
What if it led Shanks to go to where Luffy was for Luffy to eat it? That's where this concept of electromagnetism on a spiritual level can go beyond just thinking about the way Useless Kid's devil fruit works.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with that Luffy and Shanks.
Yeah. when Whitebeard and uh, Roger clashed, and we saw them like their blades weren't touching. You know, it's a lot like magnets. When you get two magnets of the same
polarity.
force, yeah, same polarity, going up against each other. There's a lot of similarities in magnetism, electromagnetism, to Haki.
That is a great point, though. That is a great point about the whole. It was like two are the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I guess they was resonating, like, you know, they're resonating at the same frequency. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Angel's Room said, interesting fact in the SBS when asked if Garp was using Haki or actual love to hit Luffy, Oda says that in this instance it's love. Interesting. The question was about when Garp hit him in Water 7.
I like that.
I mean,
I'm gonna have to look that up. I actually didn't know that.
Could Haki be considered love or hate? I guess, you know what I'm saying. Like,
you're gonna see my understanding Haki. In
it's
fact,
work.
I said it in this video.
Yeah,
I said about this concept of the emotional body.
Yeah.
Right. So this power of emotions and what relevance that has, and that's such a thank you. I'm sorry, who said that?
Angel's Room.
My chat's not loading. Okay, thank you, Angel's Room. I have to look into that SBS. I've been using a different SBS.
But I mean, you definitely talked about it though. You talked about it a lot with Sanji, how he's able to manifest that fire through his emotion, you know, which is Haki related, which you know what I'm saying, and he got more of a fiery thing where like someone like Zoro, I see Zoro's not really more emotional more than he is spiritual, so his Haki I could see going more of a spiritual route than emotional route, and that would be the trying to think which chakra that is. It's spiritual, so it'd be up a little bit. The solar, not the solar plexus.
So when it comes to spiritual, it's sort of like it covers multiple chakras. If you're going for the most spiritual, it'll be crown. But if you're going something that's not to that extent, you would think the third eye. Throat chakra is also throat chakra is more soulful. Third eye chakra is more introspective, more getting into your mind, and the heart chakra, that was more obvious. It's more emotional.
Yeah.
In fact, you're saying, you know, like Sanji's more emotional and Zoro more spiritual. I say mind, body, and spirit a lot, but if you look at Understanding Haki Part 2, when I was describing the different frequencies, I actually said 4 different things, but I'm not. 4 gets too complicated. 3 is the perfect number. So I usually say 3, but I said 4. I said mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. So I actually said 4 back then, but I'm trying to not make things too complicated. So
simplify it.
When I talk about it more in future, I'll say 3.
Just simplify.
Kind of just put emotional with, kind of combine emotional with spiritual.
No, I got you.
But yeah, this throat chakra I'm about to watch actually is so long, it had to get split into 2 parts, which is perfect for our stream. That means we don't have to watch the whole chapter, and we can watch part 2 next week or whenever we have free time. Because part 2 is when I start to get into music, which at the time, I bet a lot of people would have thought music, like why bring up music when talking about Haki? But music is so important. I literally had to make an entire second part for it. And I feel so vindicated because we're seeing with Luffy and his Gear 5th, a big component is the drums of liberation. Yeah. So music does in fact play a big role.
Can like when is your secret ending? Like you got a secret ending on this one?
Yeah, that's at the I have a table of contents in the comment section. That starts at 57.
Yeah.
So that's quite a ways.
So you said because you just said music is important, right? Which it's it makes sense though, because when you think of like senses, right? Like like all like everything we talk about kind of relate to every sense. You talk about light, how light is important. That relates to your ability to see, right? Everything you see is, like the see color. You got to be able, to know color. You pretty much got to be able to see it. And then you got your your hearing. That's when music affects things. Like, I mean, I guess we really never said anything about taste or anything or smell. So I mean, I guess maybe not all the senses, but
I talk about smell a little bit. Smelling is very relevant to air.
oh yeah, you gotta bring it. Yeah,
I said it when I was kind of like the whole feeling the air and talking about sense of smells relevant to
yeah.
observation. Taste is hard, but I feel like taste could have some relevance, especially with Sanji. I do talk about food a little bit, but it's later in the chapter. We'll talk about it next week. What do you think about devil fruit? So devil fruit is a food, so maybe there's something to that.
I mean, I think smelling and tasting is kind of similar though. Like they're very. I think those two senses are very connected because I think when you smell something, it's kind of like you're using taste to a degree. As weird as that sounds, because it's like you ever eat something, but you hold your nose and you can't taste it. Like when you're a kid.
For some reason, that doesn't work for me. I know it works for other people.
Yeah, it's like if somebody forces you to eat something you don't want to eat or that is nasty, like you're a kid and you got to take medicine. If you like hold your nose, you don't taste it, And I mean, I don't know the science behind that. I know personally, I drink like sea moss, right? And like I'll mix it with my water, and it's not a very pleasant tasting thing to drink, but when I drink it, I usually I hold my I don't hold my nose, but I do hold my breath, and I just kind of like guzzle it. So like my taste buds don't really have a time to,
My nose is too powerful for some reason. I can't do that.
Yeah, but I think taste and smell work together though. I think they do work.
Yeah,
together.
Here's a little random thing about how senses can affect other senses.
Yeah.
So if you look at someone, I forget what letters it is. It might be like F or P. Someone can say a word that starts with F, but if you see an edited video of a person's lips and they say that word, but the lips look like it's pronouncing P, what you will hear is them pronouncing the word with a P, even though if you were to close your eyes and not look at it, they're actually saying an F. Yeah, it's like one of those glitches in the Matrix almost. Like it's actually your senses can interfere with your other senses operating correctly. So that is just a random little piece of info. It's a really neat little thing.
Yeah, I could see that being the case, because at the end of the day, your senses kind of like they all work together to take in data, right? And kind of they use each other to kind of gain more context on the data you're taking in. So like your eyes see something, but you hear something, your ears hear something different. So then you kind of gotta take the two and make a judgment on what you're hearing, I guess. What you see that you're hearing or what someone's saying. Angel said, by the way, ELiDZ, you can find the SBS in volume 62, chapter 610 to be exact.
Nice. I'll add that to my research. I mean, I already went in my video, but that's just another thing to add to it. I really just went in. Literally, the chapter that Garp does that is called Fist of Love. So clearly, Oda's trying to point attention to that. One, he made the entire chapter that. Two, he answered that when he was talking about Nami. Then he went to answer it again about Garp. So clearly, this is something on Oda's mind, and he really wants us to know about this whole concept of attacking a person with love.
Yeah. And if you think about it, Sanji also was able to do that to Luffy as well.
Mr. Like, Heart Chakra himself.
I think he's been able to hit, like, this is before he actually gained Haki, so technically he shouldn't even be able to actually physically hurt Luffy, but yeah, he's able to hurt him every time like Luffy goes and steals some food. He'll be there to leave a lump on Luffy's head. But yeah, but you know what's funny? I know I kind of like when you look at somebody like Rob Lucci, you know, who's the exact opposite of somebody like Garp or Nami, you know, somebody who doesn't really have emotion to sit there and hit somebody with love, right? But still, they're very good with armament haki and being able to inflict damage on Luffy. So either
I wouldn't even say he's good at that. So Lucci was not able to bypass Luffy's devil fruit without any other attack than Rokugan, and even that's not necessarily confirmed. But Lucci before, he was just attacking Luffy with finger pistol because as a rubber person, he's weak to puncture wounds. You know, and as you know, leopard, he can make his nails razor sharp. But yeah, that's how Luffy was countering. Sorry, Lucci was countering Luffy was puncture attacks, and then he used Rokugan. But the thing about Rokugan is, if you notice, it kind of took a lot out of Lucci. It wasn't something as simple as just him attacking. You look at when Hyogoro was teaching Luffy how to use Rio, he was just like, basically, he was just like, calm down, relax, just let it flow, right?
Yeah.
But you look at when Lucci does Rokugan, it's sort of just like, you know, he just like explodes the energy out. And then if you look in the manga or you look in the anime, he's like tired, he's panting. It's like it took energy out of him. It's not something that looked like it just easily flowed out. It looked like something he just had to just like explode out of him.
Yeah, force out, yeah. Something takes a lot of energy to do. Yeah, I'm ready when you're ready, though.
All right. Last chapter for the day. Associated with Colors of Haki. But come on, that was a given. Of course, a crown goes to the power meant to rule over others. In Skypiea, Haki is known as mantra. They seem to exclusively use observation Haki, which is ironic because the name is most suited for Conqueror's Haki. Mantras are tools used in spirituality to affect vibrations internally or externally. When it's external, it is verbal, and when it's internal, it is a thought. There are many names for this.
I got a question for
Mantra, gotcha.
I got a question. Do you think the reason that Skypeans aren't really known for like learning armament Haki is because they have those impact dials and or devil fruits? Like Enel, he uses devil fruit, so he might not find any reason to become better at fighting, especially your devil fruit so powerful. It's like everybody you meet is just like an ant compared to you. And so, everybody else in Skype and you know all the other at least fighters, they use impact dials, which kind of achieve the same effect as Haki armament.
So what I think this comes down to is a topic of how much does the environment affect a person's Haki. So if you look at Fishman Island, water, their attacks are more like Rio, which is like the sacral. If you go to Wano, you'll find a lot of people who can use fire attacks, you know, that aren't Lunarians. Firefox, Kinemon, Hyogoro.
The one guy.
Even freaking Hold'em for some reason.
That's what I was going to say, Hold'em.
So, and there's a lot of fire themes. So there's this concept of maybe the environment can affect Haki. Now, in Skypiea, the fact that they have impact dials counts as their environment. It's sort of like survival of the fittest has to do with if you're trying to survive, if you're trying to overcome things, over time you're going to evolve to make up for what you're lacking. But if they already have impact dials, then maybe they don't feel the need. Maybe that doesn't come to them that they need to use that. Also, what we've seen sort of like in the past is like they were like an advanced society, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had like technology and stuff of that nature. If they had that, they may not have needed to use armament.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look at the science-based characters. You notice they don't really use armament. You don't see Caesar using armament. None of the Vince Smokes use armament. Frankie's a cyborg. We don't see him use armament. A lot of the times we see these characters, they don't really use hockey in general.
That's
So it's
pretty
like maybe
sad.
technology sort of having that technological advance sort of stifles them trying to learn hockey.
Yeah.
Now if you look at the angels in the sky, well, you would attribute that to heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And heaven is more spiritual. So then that's also environmental. Maybe them being higher in the sky affects their frequency,
Yeah.
because the frequency of your environment is what you see, what you hear, what you smell.
Yeah.
So maybe because they're more higher up, they're vibrating with a higher frequency, which is observation.
That makes
So those
sense.
are two things that could lead to why they aren't really using arm hockey and are more using a higher hockey.
Yeah, that makes sense because, like Skypiea for the most part seem like it's kind of peaceful, right? Other than what Nell and his guys are doing, and even his crew seem a little like they're priests, right? Weren't they called priests? I think they were called priests in the anime or something. I don't remember. But yeah, so they're spiritual, so they fight more spiritually than just straight physical. But and it's kind of sad that Frankie don't use armament, man. That'd be dope to see like a blacked out Frankie, blacked out cyborg, armament hockey cyborg. Yeah, that's all I had. I just wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, I got you. So this mantra is something that is said, and voicing it's like a kind of a little bit ironic that they call it mantra, but they're really doing something that's just them hearing or detecting things, when that's really not what a mantra is. Mantra is really more, it's what you do. It's your own thoughts creating vibrational effects outwards. It's your, whether you think it, or you say it with your mouth. So that's why I have the external and the internal. So the external is the throat chakra, and then the internal is what I believe to be advanced Conqueror's Haki. I don't think we've really seen an explicit advanced Conqueror's Haki yet. Yeah, we see the Conqueror's coding, but I don't think that's advanced. I think that's more just mixing armament and Conquerors together. Yeah. I think we're not going to get to it now, but I'll explain more like what is internal, what is this thought-based Haki. But we are going to talk half of it about this external voice. And last thing I want to say before we move on, so a mantra is verbal, it's external. And someone we see that does something like this is Zoro. He says chants. He says he'll give entire like poems before he lands his attack. So him doing that,
he would do that too.
Yeah. I think that even though he has Conqueror's Haki, I don't think it's as powerful as Luffy's in the way that we see it. I believe the way we know Conqueror's Haki is really more just the verbal, the external, the first level. We really haven't been too introduced to the advanced / internal. I think internal is probably where Zoro does better, but we're not there yet. I don't think he's as good as external, and that's why we haven't seen a lot of Conquerors from Zoro up till now. And that's why I said earlier, I was like, I think Luffy's more crown. I think he's more external. He's very outspoken. If you notice, we pretty much almost never see have a thought bubble. We don't see his thoughts. He just says it. He's always projecting. I say that in the video, so I'm not gonna just keep on reiterating stuff we're gonna see. But yeah, I think that's what strengthens Zoro's Conquerors, really. Like, what we know of Conquerors is you can't just strengthen it by, you can't just do push-ups, right? You can't just strengthen Conquerors by training. Right? You kind of have to find other ways for your Conquerors to get stronger. One is just yourself getting better as a person. Your Conquerors are going to naturally get better. But I do think you can actually strengthen your Conquerors through discipline, like Zoro, having this faith that he doesn't have to say all these words before he attacks. In fact, isn't that really an issue? Like, why would he waste time saying words before attacking? Just attack already. Just slice the guy already.
Yeah.
But I think he does say it because it is important. It's his conviction. It's his faith. It strengthens his haki. It strengthens his conqueror's haki.
No, yeah, it makes sense. It like makes his everything he does more meaningful and impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you kind of brought up something that I kind of thought about, and I might be wrong, so you might have to correct me on this statement. You said Luffy never really thinks, like he never really talks to himself in the middle of battle. But
yeah, there might be like one or two instances in the entire series.
Yeah, and then Zoro, we see him talk to himself out loud. Like he normally talks to himself out loud, or is he thinking?
Well, that's Luffy. He's the one that talks out loud. Zoro, he talks out loud sometimes, but a lot of times we'll see him also just thinking. Like in his fight against King, a lot of the times he's like thinking, like, okay, so King is gonna do this, and this would mean that, or like King, when his speed changed, Zoro thought to himself, okay, he speeds, so what does that mean? I can slice him. He wasn't saying that out loud. He was thinking it. So we see Zoro thinking this thing through the battle. He's meticulous. He thinks about it.
Then what about Sanji? Because I know, like, I feel as though
he's very thoughtful.
Like, but I feel as though Zoro talks to himself in his head, but Sanji talks to himself out loud, or the other way around. That's kind of why. I guess that's where I was trying to go with it. Like one of them talked to themselves.
I think when Sanji is agitated, it'll cause an outburst. But also, he thinks to himself. He strategizes even more than Zoro. Like, he'll really think out a plan. He'll be talking to somebody while thinking about a way to deceive them. You know, he does think internally a lot. I would say even more so than Zoro at times. Yeah. But then when he outbursts, he's just like yelling and, he talks out loud. I think if you want to attribute that talking out loud to anybody, it's definitely Luffy.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Meditation, prayer, but you just basically have to think of it as an inner and outer voice. Yes, we speak with our throats, so it's quite obvious where we'll be starting off at. There are two elements to describe throat chakra best: ether and sound, and some may say lightning, but we'll talk about that much later. Ether can mean sky, the place where heaven is located, but ether's true origin lies with it being the air that the Greek gods breathe. Remember, Haki by itself means supreme chi, and chi means breath. Do you see where I'm going with this? Where Heart Chakra is just regular air we breathe, Throat Chakra is godly breath, or rather, supreme breath. And don't you remember in part 1 and 2, the other name I gave supreme breath? It was voice. And where did your voice come from? The throat, of course. So, I think at some point in this series, it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't add too much to it. But I think at some point we're going to see another word for Haki is ether, is godly breath. And there's that theory, it's a pretty prominent theory that like maybe in Mary Joie there's like a superior breath. And we even, because we see the celestial dragons, they dress up as astronauts. They really care about what kind of air they breathe. So maybe there's some truth to that. Like it could be like a rumor in Mary Joie that maybe not all the celestial dragons know it, but maybe like the Gorosei and Imu know that there truly is like a superior breath that they gotta guard and safekeep, and it actually has access to power. It's not just a clean air, it's actual related to Haki or breath.
Yeah, I mean they do wear them suits though, them little astronaut looking suits, and that could be. I mean, I've heard theories, people saying them suits keep them from only inhaling the, that special air of Mary Joa instead of inhaling the same air as everybody else. And somebody pointed out that I forget his name. He was the celestial dragon that went to Fishman Island. It's not Charles. Charles is the one that
It's
got
one
punched.
of the Don Quixotes.
Yeah. So they said when he got stuck there and, you know, his air thing broke and he started panicking because, you know, now he's breathing common air. Some people pointed out that next time we see him, he aged, you know, and maybe that air gives them some type of immortality. And since he was exposed to normal air, it kind of messed up that immortality. You know, at least that's kind of
I have issue with that though. We would have to see other celestial dragons over the years because it's like, next time we see him, he aged. But it's like, well, yeah, of course.
yeah.
That's that's what happens when time passes. You age.
Yeah.
But yeah, there could be some too. I think in my head that maybe the celestial dragons don't truly know why it is they have superior air. Because if you notice, the girls, there's like a disconnect between the Gorosei and the celestial dragons. The celestial dragons, I don't think really are too aware of a lot of things. I think they're just more just living there.
Yeah. And
they get this sense of superiority. I think there are certain people that really know a lot more than
it could have something to do with the Eve tree, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe the Eve tree gives out some specialized air. You know what I'm saying? Like it's already able to produce sunlight in the ocean, so I wouldn't be shocked if it produced some type of special air within a certain radius, you know, and that's why they specifically chose to build Mary Joa on the Grand Line near or not the Grand Line, but the red line near the Eve tree, you know.
Yeah. And we can relate it back to Luffy, where it's just like we see him constantly taking in air. Maybe the next level is him taking in ether. Yeah, you know, that could be something.
And then his Gear 5 be on a different level. Maybe it get like some rainbow hair or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Angel's Room says he said, yeah, he was able to hit Luffy and Sky Pit, if I remember correctly.
Sanji, thank
you. Yeah. Like the stream. Yeah, like the stream, guys. He also said, I don't think Luffy has ever had a thought bubble. And Oda says it's because he's a man of action. That is true. I look at Luffy as somebody who works off instinct. Like, you know, he doesn't think I think to him it's more like the first thought that comes to his head. That's what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's usually kind of like what you said, the gut, right? You said the gut,
and he is the sun god after all.
Exactly. So yeah, it's more of a gut thing. Like he just knows the right things to do and say. Like I always say, like Luffy's not smart, but he's kind of a genius in some ways. Like,
yeah.
He's like he knows how to speak to people in ways that might be non-conventional. Like when he punched Vivi,
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And she was going off about like she didn't want nobody to die, but she wanted to make a change, and he was like, "Nah, bro, people going to get hurt." But it's like he knew that she needed that, and then it worked.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Fist of love.
Exactly.
And you know what's interesting? This was way before I was even like thinking about the fist of love and all that stuff. I did mention earlier in this video, I was talking about the heart chakra and how it's correlated to the hands, and I was showing like how Sanji gives such importance over his hands.
Wow.
And it's like hands can be another extension of the heart.
Well, yeah, when you look at real life, especially when you look, like if you have a heart attack, you can feel it in like your whole left arm. So like I mean your hand, it's not just, it's more than just your hand, but you know, your left arm, you'll feel it like get tight, and that's kind of the early signs of a heart attack. So yeah. Angel says Sanji, Usopp, and Brook very thoughtful before they even do anything risky. Yeah, they do think a lot. Zoro Sanji doesn't when he know that like it's like if he know he has to move, like protect his captain, he knows when to act. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
So Sanji, I feel like he thinks before and during battle.
yeah,
Then you have Zoro. He doesn't really think as much before, but like he just gets into battle, but then he'll start thinking. And then you got Luffy. It's like before and during battle, he's not really thinking
nah,
internally very much. He's just doing.
nah.
So that's you can kind of put those three into the three different ways they go about it.
It's like one is like ask questions first, ask questions in the middle, or ask questions
just don't
first,
ask
then
questions at
do,
all.
and then you got one who don't ask questions at all, and
He
then
does,
ask
and then
questions
doesn't
later.
Yeah.
And then one's just like, hey, don't ask questions, deal with the consequences. Oh man, I'm ready when you're ready.
All right. Ether. Oh, this is something I don't think a lot of people really pick up on, is the fact that Haki is referred to as voice. This is just something Oda, he puts into the story. He sprinkles it throughout the story every once in a while. This started in Skypiea. They were talking about voice. He calls the thing the voice of all things. When Luffy detected Katakuri, he says, I can sense a voice. Right? It's not literally he's hearing Katakuri talk. Like he had a mouthful of donuts. He's talking about his haki.
Yeah.
Right? He used observation haki. You know, observation haki detects someone's spirit. You know, compare that to the panel I have right below where it's Ulti pointing. It's like a damn near the same scene. Ulti's pointing. She's like, then where is that haki come from? It's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Haki and voice, I feel like they're interchangeable. They represent the same thing.
Makes sense. I got you.
Ether is just another way of saying haki or voice. Conqueror's haki is the embodiment of spirit. Remember when I said heart was like DNA? Well, the soul is the spiritual body that is formed by that DNA. Basically, since the element of throat chakra is ether, it's like saying that the element is haki itself. Conqueror's haki is soul, or in other words, yeah, that's deep. I kind of just had to say it. I couldn't really expand upon it too much. But it's like heartbeat. The element, we've been talking about the elements of all these chakras, right? Solar plexus is fire, root is earth. Then we get to throat, and you can go, it's ether, it's sound. But the element of it is literally haki itself. Right? And you can go all the way back to when Rayleigh said that Conqueror's haki is the embodiment of spirit. And what is spirit? Well, haki is spirit. It's basically saying it's like it's in of itself.
Yeah. It's
like the embodiment of its own self. It really is, I think the rawest essence of haki is Conqueror's haki. That just is haki in its most prime state. That's what I believe. And then from there, it can lower its frequency and take different forms, or it can rise its frequency and take different forms, known as, future sight or advanced or basic observation, or the lower armament haki. But yeah, I think haki, when you see Conqueror's haki, you can't even see Conqueror's haki, and that's kind of the point. Haki isn't something that can be seen with the naked eye, but that's what Conqueror's haki represents. Their spirit.
I think
that's factual.
I think I finally put something together that I guess you was trying to explain earlier with the badump. Because we got the badump right here, and then we had the badump on a different panel. I think when Zoro was using the breath of all things.
Yeah.
And then we get the badump of Luffy when we thought he died, but then he kind of restarted his heart. So do you believe, are you implying that is kind of like your heart kind of, like not your heart, your physical heart, but more your spiritual heart?
Yeah, it's the kokoro.
Like an awakening.
It's the concept that's hard because Japan already has it. They have it figured out. They created a word for it that we haven't created for it yet. So it's kind of hard to explain it, but it really is just this concept of it's a spiritual heart, but it represents so many different things. Also, like when
Like awakening.
Usopp is looking at their spirit, right? He's like, I can see their spirit. It's like he's seeing their kokoro.
Yeah.
He's seeing their heart, but not in the way we typically think about it.
Yeah.
I'll send you a screenshot while this is playing to show you, like, when Luffy's in Gear 5th, you can see the badump a whole lot. But yeah, Conqueror's Haki is Haki in its raw state. It is the soul. All right, I'll let it play. Now, given that Haki by itself is supreme, there is already an implied sense of sovereignty to it. But then you have Haoshoku no Haki, which in a way can be seen as Supreme King, Supreme Chief, like King of Kings. And then Danchin Jiao implies that one of the Haoshoku users will rule over the rest of the kings. So like a king of kings, of kings. Now, that's impossible. Oh, wait. Anyway, Haki is described as a voice within a being, and that voice is meant to be let out. Yeah.
Triple H and Jesus, and then you got 4 kings of kings.
Remember when I said, in order to talk, you must use your voice. In order to use your voice, you must breathe. Preferably you're exhaling while you're speaking. Have you ever tried talking while inhaling? It's practically impossible. Doing that makes you sound really quiet and super weak. Weak. That voice inside of you is most powerful when let out. Your ether, aka Supreme Breath, aka Haki, aka voice, needs to be loud and clear. Don't forget, the other element of throat chakra is sound. Haoshoku no Haki is the user being able to have that voice heard externally. It is the power of a king. Yelling may seem like a trivial power. Simply just screaming as loud as you want might make it seem like it's a power more befitting a toddler, but it's actually best used by the king of the jungle.
Did you hear that? The future king! Oh, don't hurt me. Oh, do it again.
You know, we've never seen a true Lion Zone user. I bet you it'll be someone or something that specializes in Conqueror's Haki. I say that because King's Haki is like that of a spiritual roar. In fact, isn't there a character known as Roar of the Seas? Oh yeah, I made a video about why I think Apu's Double Fruit could be Conqueror's Haki. Conqueror's Haki, on the other hand, is just a force. It is intangible. Do you know of a vibrational energy that is non-physical but can do physical damage? One that comes to mind is called sound. You know, like what Apu's Devil Fruit powers are? Now that we know that throat chakra's element is sound, just like Apu's ability, it just makes that theory all the more credible. Yep. This relation between sound and Haki is, I showed when Jesus Burgess, he has that thing on his arm. It kind of looks like a speaker. And with it, he was able to do a shockwave, which was a lot like Rio, Advanced Armament.
Yeah.
But there's other characters, they don't need that to do it. It's almost like he's using that mechanism to cheat in a way. Like to just be able to use, help him use Rio. Because maybe he has insight. Maybe Blackbeard has insight and kind of teach him like, hey, you can do this. You don't have to learn it. You can just do this and you'll learn how to, it'll just help you do it. You know, there's another character that has something like that, Boo. And this concept of mechanisms helping out someone use Haki, you know, maybe impact dials fall under that. Maybe there's some impact dials that can be used and applied to a person that helps them
Definitely
use
agree with that.
Haki. I think another example of this is Killer. See, Luffy had to learn Ryo to be able to hurt Kaido. And Killer was also able to hurt Kaido. He was able to do internal damage. And the way he did it was spinning his blades. But he also uses a mechanism to help spin his blades. You know, he doesn't just use blades. He has like these things attached to the blades to help him spin it.
Make like a hypersonic sound or something.
Yep, he made a hypersonic sound wave. And with that, it was basically he was doing internal damage. It was like he was able to use that mechanism to help him use Ryo.
Yeah.
So the relationship between sound and Haki, there's a very strong one there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like they produce the same results, really.
I mean, sound works on vibrations too, just like light does, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a different spectrum, but still, you know, like the higher the sound is, the you know, more the faster, the higher energy it is.
So I sent you a screenshot just showing that relevance of his heart when he says, "Come on, Brute." It does, instead of badoom, you can see the doom, and then it goes doop, pop, pop. So it's like he's changing the frequency of his heartbeat, and it's making a song. He even says, "Yeah, that's the sound." So
like
there we go. It is very relevant. and when he was, you could even see the lightning coming off of him.
Yeah, that's true.
It's there. I mean, it's
Conquers
all the
Haki.
evidence.
Yeah.
And this theory came out, what, August 6, 2020?
Hey, man. It's the future sight.
Yeah, so use my third eye to make these theories. Okay. I'll let it play. Check out that vid if you haven't already. When Conqueror's Haki is used, it seems to be an invisible force that affects people. That may sound supernatural. I could easily call it an astral or ethereal attack, and it is. But there is an invisible force that can be used as a weapon to deliberately harm people that exist in real life. Yes, the real world that you and I live in. It's called sound. There are ways to affect a person's frequency through the 5 senses. The most effective way is through their ears. Sound is effective for many reasons. For one, your ears are always open. It's not easy to defend against. The frequencies of the person making the sound is free for them to adjust. Most dangerous of all is how it can easily affect your subconscious without you realizing. It can alter a person's emotional well-being, aka their frequency. Remember how I said someone using observation could be open to a point that other spirits and emotions can harm them? Well, imagine that, but instead of someone receiving the frequency, it is being projected out. A wave of a person's Haki that can be detected no matter how much a victim lacks spiritual awareness. It's not a sound that can be heard in the physical realm, but rather the ethereal realm. Sound isn't just powerful because of how it can affect the spirit, heart, and mind. It can have physical ramifications as well. The most famous example is being able to break a wine glass with sound.
I couldn't do
Here's
that.
something.
I couldn't do that test. That'd be too annoying.
Yeah. Here's something a little mind-blowing. When Whitebeard uses his Guru Guru Mi, you know, he does those quake punches.
Mm-hmm.
What does it kind of look like?
Haki.
Even more, because there's
Like
that aura on his
Conqueror's-
hand, right?
like
That
Conqueror's
does not
Haki.
look like Haki.
Like
But
Conqueror's
when he
Haki.
actually punches the air, it makes an effect. It
Look.
looks like broken glass.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
It's just like crack. And that's sort of my whole point, is that it's just
Like he's shattering dimensions or something.
Yeah, he's shattering it. It's a vibrational attack, similar to what we're seeing with what we could see sound do to glass.
Yeah.
And earlier someone was like, could Caesar like cancel out Haki, right? If he just gets rid of the vibration air. Well, the thing about Conqueror's Haki is I'm not necessarily saying it's a physical sound. It's like it's a sound on another plane of existence. It's not the same as a physical plane. So Caesar wouldn't be able to cancel out. Ironically enough, or maybe coincidentally, Caesar didn't attack. People were like, was that Conqueror's Haki? He was able to just make everybody around him not breathe.
Yeah.
And a character wondered, like, did he just use Conqueror's Haki? But no, it wasn't that. But maybe there's something more to that.
Yeah. Let me catch up on this chat real quick. Angel said the close we've come to Luffy thought is his flashback with Rayleigh during his fight with Katakuri.
He said Latakuri. He loses one battle, and now you're calling him Latakuri.
Well, he corrected it.
I know, I'm joking. He took the
Angel said you need a shock B12. Mufasa, you telling me I need some energy? Is that what you're saying? Then he says, might be a tiger because I heard in Asia tigers are seen as king of jungles instead of a lion. Sound can also affect someone's emotion, and example of this is music.
Definitely.
Yeah, and because Brooke controls emotions with his music. When he gets to...
have you ever watched a movie that didn't have a background soundtrack?
That'd be pretty boring.
Yeah, music plays such a big role.
I mean, you could watch something that's like not even that dramatic, and if you put like some dramatic music on it, it'd be way more. Yeah. And about the tigers, Asia lions are in like Africa for the most part. You're gonna find lions in Africa, which isn't a jungle. It's more like a Sahara, yeah,
the desert,
yeah. The plains and with tall grasses and stuff. Tigers are what's in the jungle. But it's how people go. It sounds better to say the king of the jungle.
Yeah,
but yes, sir. I'm ready.
All right. In the video game Pirate Warriors 4, all of the conquerors use Conqueror's Haki, except Kaido. Did they forget? Did they feel they couldn't have Kaido use Conqueror's Haki without concrete, official confirmation of him having that ability? Perhaps, but I'd argue that he does actually have Conqueror's Haki in the game. See, he has this one move where all he does is yell, and while he yells it also shows the black lightning of Conqueror's Haki. Given my theory that Conqueror's Haki is from the Throat Chakra, this makes perfect sense. Not only that, but don't forget another word for Haki is voice. So of course, strong Haki would make for a loud voice, aka yelling. Okay. That Pirate Warriors, they must have some kind of intel, because they were showing Shanks use lightning like way before it was really confirmed, and Oda was showing lightning in Haki attacks.
Yeah.
Like they've had Shanks using lightning in his attacks for like many years now.
Yeah.
So they must have had some kind of intel or something, because they already knew for some reason.
Yeah, I think I heard somewhere that Oda kind of drops other stuff in like different mediums, I guess. In games, he might give some part of the story, because he got so much to go over. He can't, he might not be able to go over every single thing. So he might give us a little something here and there and something outside of the main story.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's probably why. At least my thought.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. All right, play.
Don't you dare!
However, it ain't as simple as just chalking it up to just yelling. You should be thinking to yourself, if Conqueror's Haki is about making noise, then how come we've seen multiple occasions of characters using Conqueror's Haki without even opening their mouth? I just gotta mention, Kaido has an attack where he roars and it causes lightning to come out. He used it against the Red Scabbers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I vaguely remember that part.
Yeah.
I might be thinking about when he those all them air slashes and Okiku's arm got cut off. I think that's what I'm thinking of.
He does a lot of elemental attacks with his breaths, which could have to do with his him being a dragon. But I also say that I think the throat chakra is like the element of Haki itself. So there could be something to that. So why he does a lot of elemental attacks with his roars.
Okay.
All right. House. Remember what I had just said about how sound can affect the subconscious, combined with it not actually being a sound on the physical realm.
If you judged only by your sensory factors, you'd believe that train tracks met in the distance. But you know better than that, and you turn away from your senses. If you lived only by your sensory factors, you'd believe that a dog whistle made no sound. But you know better than that, so you turn away from your sensory factors and you stand out in your yard and you blow away. And yet how many times, if we're not careful, do we find ourselves living at nothing more than a sensory level?
Yes, while there may have been many instances of the Conqueror's users physically yelling, it wasn't actually the yelling on the physical realm that is doing the most damage. Also, another thing to take into consideration when it comes to understanding not everything is literal, but spiritual and conceptual and abstract, is you notice how even though they have the black lightning, right, the lightning of Haki, and we see it utilized, it even touches people, have we ever seen it actually electrocute them?
No.
In fact, we know for a fact that isn't something that is meant to electrocute them, because when Kaido uses his Thunder Bagua, which, I mean, just look at the name, it's called Thunder Bagua.
Yeah.
It has a huge effect on Luffy the first time, even other times after that. Ragnarok as well. And Luffy's rubber. So if it really was lightning, he would resist it. But it's not actually lightning. It's more just a representation of that power. It's a representation of ether. Ether is the heavens.
Yeah.
So
Breath
it
of
all
the gods.
Exactly. Not everything has to be literal. I mean, even the solar plexus, like I say in that, they're not making actual fire. It's their aura heating up to the point where it imitates fire.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why Sanji's leg don't get burnt.
First, remember that we're dealing with a spiritual chakra. Throat is the lowest of the 3 spiritual chakras, and as a result is the most physical. So it makes sense why physical action can activate the spiritual voice. Now remember that I said that there's more than one body to a single being. Just like I talked earlier about with hearts, there are multiple versions of body parts. There is a physical and spiritual throat, and both can be used at the same time, such as when Big Mom was crying over the breaking of Mother Carmel's picture. Vast majority of the time, the physical throat is solely being used. But there are instances such as the first time that Conqueror's Haki was used, in which the spiritual throat can be used without the physical counterpart. Conqueror's Haki is a layered scream that can exist on multiple realms. Think of the spiritual scream as like a dog whistle in the physical realm. The sound is there, but it can't be heard physically, only spiritually. Let's look at Luffy using Conquerors on the 50,000 fishermen. Luffy was quiet in the physical realm, but try and imagine his spiritual body in that moment. His ethereal form, you can call it, or his soul, or even a phantom. Ghost Luffy in that moment is basically letting out a loud roar that can be heard by the souls of all the fishermen enemies around him. His ghostly wail is intimidating enough that it breaks the spirits of those with a weak will. Just to reiterate, even though the sound isn't heard with physical ears, it is a sound that exists and can even affect non-living physical objects, such as Whitebeard's ship or the clouds in the sky. This makes sense for 2 reasons. First, remember what we learned from the breath of all things. Everything has a breath, aka everything has a spirit. So it shouldn't be a surprise that a purely spiritual attack can damage physical objects, since everything is spiritual. The second reason is that sound, even in the physical realm, can do physical damage despite being intangible. In a way, the mom is right. That boy didn't break the cup with his voice. It isn't actually the sound that breaks the wine glass. It's the way the sound is causing the glass to vibrate. Remember, we're more focused on the effect rather than the cause. It always comes back to vibrations. Sound waves are created by vibrations traveling across any object, including air. However, there's an even more powerful thing that can be done with sound. It's this neat thing called music.
When we speak of vibration, we're actually calling your attention to the basis of your experience, for everything is actually vibrationally based. We could use the word energy interchangeably, and there are many other words in your vocabulary that accurately apply. Most understand the vibrational characteristics of sound. Sometimes when the deep, rich bass notes of your musical instruments are played loudly, you can even feel the vibrational nature of...
All right. So that's where stop today.
All right. Yeah, man. I'm a little worn out today, so I'm sorry if my energy ain't as high. I'm trying to keep it up high, but today I'm just a little, most of my energy going. So forgive me, y'all. Forgive me. So that's where we'll stop. I guess we'll continue this next week when you got a chance to show up.
Yep.
Angel Room said, great stream. Appreciate it. Anyway,
appreciate it very much.
Hey, shout out to ELiDZ. His channel will be in the description box, so y'all make sure y'all go check out his channel. I didn't put the video. I wanted to put the channel so y'all just go watch all the news. You know what I mean? All his stuff. Hey, so I'll let you close or close anything about the day that we talked about. Maybe summarize things, and also maybe talk about or talk about what you got in the future coming up. Whatever you want to say.
I would say if you haven't already watched, I have a Red Sea Theory. It's pretty good. There's 2 parts to it. I'll come out with a part 3 eventually. I have a Luffy's Awakening that's super relevant now with what we're seeing with Gear 5th. But ultimately, what I'm devoting all my free time to when I get a chance is actually completing this whole Understanding Haki series and showing why I believe Haki blooms and blossoms into a devil fruit ability.
Yes, sir.
Next week, we'll talk about part 2 of this, where we actually talk about sound. And we're going to see a lot from the Soul King and Queen. Brooke, and obviously Big Mom. Then you'll even get to see what I think Advanced Conquerors is, which is something I do think we've seen in the series. It just hasn't been stated to be Advanced Conquerors. I think there's just a lot of foreshadowing.
Advanced Conquerors.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. I'm thinking like future sight observation. Future sight conquers.
It might not be as deliberately powerful as it may seem, even though it's called Advanced Conquerors. It's not like a spirit bomb or anything like that.
Maybe
it's something that's super abstract, because you got to imagine with each rising of the Hakis, it just got more and more spiritual, more and more abstract, less and less physical. So you got to imagine the one that's the most spiritual and less physical is actually going to be something that really doesn't have to do with making an attack that is like an energy blast or shockwave or anything like that, and really is going to be based in just concept.
You know what I was thinking it could be? Like when you brought that up, I'm thinking like maybe some type of enlightenment. You know what I'm saying? The word, you know how Conquerors Haki, usually you're imposing your will on other people's wills. You're bending their will to pretty much like collapse at you. Maybe advance would be you're conquering your own will to
Yes,
some,
exactly.
you know what I'm saying, to where it's like
That's
like you don't, it's almost like I could see it being something like Ultra Instinct or something, you know what I'm saying, where it's like you're not even really thinking of fighting, you're just, you know what I'm saying, it's just you already know. It's almost like you put everything together into one package, and you know, like maybe
if you
Shanks
go back
has
to the
it,
beginning
you
of
know?
this chapter. Oh, I forgot to mention the thing about Shanks. All right, that's how we'll finish this off. But before that, if you go back to the beginning of this chapter, I said there's the outer voice, which is what we presently known as conquerors. But then there's the inner voice. And like you said, it's like conquering yourself. It's like conquering yourself is really mastering yourself. This goes back to when I was saying that whole thing about, you know, the mind shouldn't have mastery over you. You should master your own mind. Like you should master yourself. That's how you really become your best self.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are sort of along the lines of where advanced armament. Now the thing with Shanks, right? So we know Shanks lost an arm, but Shanks seemingly is someone who's really the most associated with Conqueror's Haki out of all the Hakis. I'm sure he has strong armament. I'm sure he has strong observation. There's no doubt about that. But he's probably like Luffy, where when he has the most affinity for it is Conqueror's Haki. And what we learned in this chapter is that Conqueror's Haki is the ether. It's the one I believe is most associated with the soul. You know, it's like what Rayleigh said, it's the embodiment of spirit.
Yeah.
Heavy emphasis on the body and embodiment. It is a detached body from your physical body. So Shanks lost a part of his physical body. But what if his Haki is so strong that doesn't even factor in so much, because he's so in tune with his own spirit. He can be so detached from his own physical body that the fact that he lost his arm isn't as big of a deal as you might think it is. In fact, I could imagine this. It's mind over matter. Sorry, hold on, there's a truck passing by. Okay, it's mind over matter, right? I could imagine Shanks holding his sword as if he has two arms. And even though he only has one arm, it doesn't matter. His spirit recognizes it as he's holding this sword with two arms.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with Zoro and his Ashura. If Zoro can create more limbs, you don't think Shanks has the option to do that too?
I mean, I would think.
Yeah.
I think he could.
So as crazy as it is, that could be why Shanks is still so powerful. That Shanks is a Yonko. That it's never really been mentioned that Shanks is less. It's too much less powerful. Maybe he's a little bit. Arms important, the body's important. So maybe it did affect him a little bit, but still, in the grand scheme of things, his spirit is so strong it helps compensate for the fact that he lost his arm, and he can fight. He might even be able to fight as if he doesn't even have a missing arm.
Yeah.
Just because mind over matter, spirit over matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see it just being like an advanced conquerors thing, being more something that boosts you individually in like different types of ways, right? Kind of like what you said about Shanks. And it could even be like, I could see it being to a point where you kind of have an understanding of hockey in general, right? Like, you know, because maybe to have an advanced form of Conqueror's Haki, you got to have a good knowledge of hockey, of all hockeys, you know what I'm saying? So, and then when you unlock this Conqueror's Haki, maybe you can use hockey in any way you want, you know what I'm saying? You know, like you could see into the future, but you wouldn't be limited to only 7 seconds into the future, or, you know,
It might make it where it's not just about seeing the future, but manifesting the future.
Yeah. Or maybe like you could direct armament hockey. So maybe like instead of like, you know how we're used to seeing Luffy coat his whole arm in hockey. I mean, we've seen him like do like certain spots as well. So it's not, it won't be the first time, but say if he could like put hockey into the tip of your finger and do an attack, just, you know what I mean, with that tip of your finger. And it's just like way more destructive and stuff than, you know, if you coated your whole arm and try to do that same attack. Like something along that line would be, you know.
I like the way you're thinking.
Like you're way more efficient with how you use Haki. Like you could use a very minimal amount of Haki but still achieve maximum results. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like somebody who's using it like their maximum amount of Haki. You know what I mean? But you're only using it very small. So for somebody like Luffy, when he uses gears, like gear 4 at least, because we know it's Haki dependent. But if he could like be super efficient with his Haki in gear 4, that would make gear 4 way more dangerous. He could sustain it at probably indefinitely. You know, I don't know, but yeah, that's what I would think. But yeah, if you got anything else, you know,
not much more. No, I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, like I ain't got much else either. So appreciate everybody for stopping through. You know, shout out to my uncle. Shout out to Angel's Room. Shout out to Adam. Shout out to Rage, which I think is Stan. Stan, y'all know him as Stan.
Yeah.
And he just changed his name. Shout out to One Life Man and shout out to Cube. And I think that's everybody. Anyway, y'all, I appreciate everyone for watching. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the video. You know, if you learned something new, maybe if you agree or disagree with some of the concepts we talked about. Put it make sure if there's certain thing you want to talk about, put it in like the time. Put a timestamp on where you disagreed or agreed. So, you know, we know what you're talking about when we go back and look at these Understanding Haki revisited videos. But yeah, shout out to ELiDZ. Appreciate you for coming to the stream, to the channel again. It's always appreciated when you do that. We should have ELiDZ next week to wrap up this part of the Understanding Haki. So yeah, anyway, y'all make sure y'all hit that like button. Also subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, if you're looking for a One Piece community to be a part of, we have the Discord and the Facebook group. It's your boy, Sean P, the Bluff God, and I'm out of here. Y'all take it easy. Oh, and the link to his channel will be in the description box, so y'all go to his channel and show him some love. I'm out of here. Peace.